Okay, guys, we are live. So for those listening at home, welcome to the Live from the Sword Coast podcast. My name is Kevin Madison, and I will be your friendly dungeon master today. Today, we are kicking off a brand new campaign, and this campaign is not only special because we're trying a new game on the channel, or at least a game we haven't run on a regular basis. We are also finally tackling a gaming white whale of mine, which is the Iron Gods Adventure Path, published by Paizo Publishing for the first edition Pathfinder role-playing game. So this is a game that I have talked about, or rather a adventure path I've talked about quite a bit on the channel, and I have been very excited to get this to the table. This is the first of my New Year's resolutions that I'm actually following through with, so that's pretty good. And with me this morning to kick this campaign off with a session 0 and a bit of actual play are the stars of the Iron Gods Adventure Path. What I'll do, guys, is go through the order that I've got you on my screen here. You can tell us who you are and who you're playing. And maybe say what your experience with Pathfinder is as well. So first up, we got John.
Hey, greetings, everyone. I've been playing Pathfinder for 7 years, I think. Switched from 3.5 and for show 4th edition, but that's my opinion. I'm going to be playing Kairos. He's a skulled, colored skull human. He's going to be using the variant multi-class rules from Unchained to pick up Bard, just to kind of double up on that. And basically, he was born and raised in Torch. He's thirsty for knowledge and stories of his ancestry. Worked for a half-orc to help some armor and weapons. So he's going to be mostly a support character. And he's going to tell a few colored jokes now and then. And
Nice.
Try to keep up party morale.
Hopefully you mean off-color jokes and not color jokes. I don't know.
Yeah, I meant off-color.
We don't need to tackle the racism issue immediately.
Well, color spray might happen, but... And he specializes in long spear and clubs.
Awesome. Okay, next up is Arlen.
Hi, I'm Arlen. I have basically no experience with Pathfinder. I told Kev my experience with D&D 3.5 was a single bar fight where all of our PCs got killed. But I read as much of the rule book as I could stand to read. So hopefully I'm not going to be the slowest player. I'm playing Vortimer, who is an android slayer. That is an android of the slayer class, not one who slays androids. Mm-hmm. He's a sort of, I kind of envision him as a kind of Neolithic hunter type out in the wilderness. He's using his incredible android stamina to race down animals after he wounds them with his bow. He's got a bow and he shoots people pretty well. And I think I'm going to be just, single target DPS, I guess, in more video game terms for the party. So yeah, that's Vortimer.
Nice. And also I think you're setting a good precedent because now I'm going to have to use the cast of Blade Runner as the rest of the... the rest of the characters. Oh, one thing I should say too, John, one of the things I like to do in my campaigns is think of the NPCs and PCs in terms of who would be cast as them in the movie version of the campaign. So do you have someone in mind who would be for Kairos? If not, I can go on to Brandon and then we'll come back to you and you can tell us who.
Well, I usually pay attention to actors as the characters they play and not the persons they are. So sure. Probably get back to me on that.
Okay. Next up is Brandon.
Hey, I'm Brandon. I'm playing Algar Blood of Crow. I'm a Kellid Blood Rager. And I will, and I'm new to Pathfinder. This is, I've browsed through the rules before, considered running one, but yeah, this is the first time actually playing. And I also have no idea who would actually play my reluctant Numerian archaeologist.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get back to that as well.
Okay.
I have to think about that.
Sounds good. Next up is Isaac.
All right. So my character is only known as the Blind Prophet because no wizard actually uses their real name. She is a divining wizard of all things and gave up transmutation and conjuration, which means anyone who knows this game just had a small aneurysm at the fact I gave up the 2 best spell schools for arguably one of the worst. But that's the kind of character I like to play. She is blind, so she has 50% concealment chance on everything, which is a glorious thing to try to overcome. And she will be played mostly as a buffs type wizard, which is
Let's clarify one thing too. It's not that she is blind; it's that she was blinded.
yes, that is probably more accurate. So
Yeah.
she had sight, and she misses it a lot.
Okay.
I have.
And you played quite a bit of
decent-
Pathfinder, right?
Hmm?
You've played quite a bit of Pathfinder.
Yeah, I've been playing role-playing games since I was like 12. Starting actually, ironically, with Palladium of all things, which if you think Shadowrun is math soup, no, don't play Palladium games.
Yeah.
They are too many steps, too many things.
Nice.
But yeah, I was running the D&D Encounters program when 4th edition came out. So I kind of had equal experience when Pathfinder came out as I did with D&D 4th, and was still kind of doing D&D 3.5 stuff.
Mhm.
And so I've pretty much been around this game since its conception.
Nice. And last but not least is Jamie.
Greetings and salutations. This is Jamie. I'm a longtime gamer, Dungeons and Dragons player, Pathfinder, GM, all of the above. I started with the Moldvay red box back in the day. My first adventure was Keep on the Borderlands.
Nice.
I've cleared out the Temple of Elemental Evil, survived the Tomb of Horrors twice, and various other sundry adventures, spell jamming and whatnot. Experience with Pathfinder, I just ended a 4-year Mythic campaign where I took the characters through 12 levels and 5 Mythic tiers, along with various scaling weapons and extra planar adventures. So I'm pretty familiar with the system, and I generally allow almost all third-party material up to and including Path of War, Akashic Mysteries, Spirits of Power, Spirits of Might, so all of the above. So I've always had the most fun whenever we could just kind of play any kind of character or concept you wanted to, which is something that went all the way back to 1st edition, which the only supplement we had was Dragon Magazine or Dungeon. And we would just include anything from Dragon, if a new class came out, be it Necromancer or some type of anti-paladin or what have you, you would always want to pick them up and run and play with the new toys. But I'm looking forward to playing in this. I am familiar with the Iron Gods campaign in that I have played part of it before, so I'm going to play kind of a dumbish, low-key character, perhaps, but perhaps not too dumb, but sort of an introverted character. But anyway, it's going to be Gunther Scarred Face. I'm still working on all the details of the background. I just put a few things together quickly, but he's a Kelid half-orc, of course, coming from an unfortunate genesis, as half-orcs often do. Grows up with a strong hatred of the Technic League in Numeria, and to keep it simple, he's just kind of a brutish character that brutish, not brutish, a la Man of Steel Superman, but
well, he's not going to be an edgelord half-orc?
No. Working in the junkyard, lugging junk, but because it's the town of Torch, he sees strange tech come through. He's familiar with that kind of thing. But he really just enjoys looking for quiet moments where he can get away between the stacks of junk and read his ragged, dog-eared copy of the Pathfinder Chronicles, where he reads about the adventures of Lyrian, the iconic gunslinger, as we all know, and her adventures as shield marshal in far-off Alkenstar. And he fantasizes as being a deputy, self-appointed Alkenstar shield marshal. So
nice.
He has goals and aspirations and dreams and all of the above. But I think it'll be fun to play a gunslinger in this. So I'm looking forward to it. I dig the gunslinger class an awful lot. And then you likely are aware of this already, but the alchemist or alchemical cartridges are the things that really kind of make that class playable past a certain point. Because I was actually listening to the Glass Cannon podcast with one of the players in that playing it. I was like, wait a minute, how are you making these attacks? And then looked online. I'm like, how did I miss this fucking rule? Because I was like, well, gunslingers are good up until you get a second attack, and then
that's the thing that allows you to be able to attack a lot faster.
Slows you down, right? Yeah, I was unfamiliar with that myself, but I was running a section of Iron Fang Invasion, and I included the Gunslinger NPC from Book 2, Kaal, because he's just a great kind of Boba Fett bounty hunter type character. And I was going to the forums trying to figure out how to work this guy, and somebody was like, "Well, no, he should have more than one attack because he has alchemical cartridges." And I'm like, okay, this is claim totally different. So yeah.
Okay. So what I'm going to do, guys, is we're gonna try and get some actual play in today as well. But first, let's just deal with any mechanical issues or lingering mechanical things we want to deal with. I think some of you guys saved some of your starting cash as well too, if you wanted to pick up any stuff in town. So first off, let's just get ourselves familiar with Torch and with the where are we here? Numeria in general. So let me shift this around. Yeah, here we go. I love this map. So this is the map of Numeria, guys.
It is a beautiful map.
Yeah, I love this map. So you guys all live in Torch, and most of you have grown up here. There's maybe 2 or 3 of you who are, spent the formative years at least here. Vortimer would have actually, like, androids don't really grow up or age or stuff like that. They're sort of, they're as adults, and then they live like 100 years, and then at that point their kind of hard drive is overloaded, and they just reset.
Mm-hmm.
So you can decide for yourself. There's enough like android crushes kicking around that you could have been this could be your first incarnation, or you could have had previous incarnations as well. But Torch, the place I'm pinging on the screen there, that's where you guys have grown up. And do I have a handout of Torch? I do not. It's that picture that we had on the first screen. The signature thing about the town of Torch is this massive violet flame that just seems to shoot up directly into the sky at the top of this massive craggy hill that the locals call Black Hill. The community is only about 100 years old or so. So it's a relatively new community, but what has drawn people here has been the ability to work the sky metals that litter the grounds around the region of Numeria. Numeria is, forgive me for people who know already, but for those who are unfamiliar, Numeria is kind of like Pathfinder's answer to like Thunder the Barbarian or Thundercats or Swords and Sorcery meets, Visionaries. Anything that's got like swords and sorcery and tech in it. This is kind of what the setting is. And I've got 2 other sources that I really love that are in that vein. Barbarian Conquerors of Canahu for Adventure Conquer King, and Numeneria. Numenera is the game published by Monty Cook Games that is this weirdo thing set like 9 billion years in the future on a Earth that has seen like 7 different civilizations. And I'm not stealing that idea, but what I'm going to steal is a bunch of the weird monsters and the weird tech from it, because it really does a good job of showing how tech, a sufficiently advanced tech can be magic kind of trope. The predominant population of Numeria is this basically like Conan style Chimerians, but reskinned. They're called Kelids, but if you think of what, a archetypical kind of, bare chested, dark haired, steely eyed barbarian, that's what the Kelids are. There are a number of different tribes that sort of dominate in the region. But a few hundred years ago, this other organization came to power called the Technic Union. Is it Technic Union? Is that
League?
Technic League. There we go. Technic Union is something different. So the Technic League came to power, and they are basically horrifically abusive magic users who have managed to not only learn advanced arts in arcane magic and spells and so forth. They also have a seeming mastery of a lot of different technology. They are, however, exceedingly cruel, and they're not technically the rulers of Numeria. Technically, the ruler of Numeria is a Kelid guy, and he and his tribe rule from a place called Starfall. which is right in the northern tip of Numeria. But rumors around the different tribes and the rumors that likely have reached Torch are that he's really kind of a thrall. He's a puppet king, in spite of being this really powerful Conan type, barbarian conqueror. Torch, however, does kind of mercifully escape the attention of the Technic League for the most part. That may be because it's on the other side of this massive rent in the earth, that crevasse that you see cutting across the middle of Numeria. That is First Blade's path. And what the Kelid locals will tell you is that's where the Lord of Iron, Gorham, got up and strode across the land of Numeria, dragging his giant sword and leaving a rent in the earth. Your mentor, Connor Bain, will tell you that no, there's probably another cause or another source of that, but I wouldn't dispute that to a Kelid's face necessarily. Other nearby communities that you guys are aware of, downriver, there's a place called Hadroth Hakados. Hadroth Hakados is kind of like to be honest, it really seems like it's more part of what's called the River Kingdoms, which is further south of Numeria. The River Kingdoms are a collection of different varied kind of city-states, and Hadroth Hakados is far enough away from Starfall that it really, for the most part, completely escapes the attention of the Technic League. There are exotic races that are found nowhere else on Golarion that make their homes there. There's more freedom of thought, and you're able to access certain things that the Technic League have outlawed, like, for instance, the Pathfinder Chronicles that Gunther enjoys reading so much. There's also another community up here called Scrapwall. The Scrapwall is basically, if you kind of think of like, what's his name? The villain's home base in Fury Road, where there's like one. It's the Thunder. Well, Thunderdome is because Thunderdome has competing power centers. The whatever the place is. What was the character's name in Fury Road? The big, you know what I mean? The big guy, the white mane or whatever.
Yeah.
Immortan Joe.
Yeah.
So Immortan, that's kind of what it's like, where there is, it's where the places, the parts of the city where the central authority doesn't control are just complete fucking wild mayhem. However, there are just tons and tons and tons of wrecks that relate to this sky metal. And sky metal seems to be among the toughest metals anywhere to be found in Golarion. And while the Kelid tribes will tell you don't fucking touch stuff because it's dangerous and they've got all these superstitions against doing it, there are brave and greedy adventurers or just entrepreneurs who want to go out and take that stuff back. And Torch seems to be the only place where you can actually work it. The heat of the flame, there's this bizarre kind of like what's the word I'm looking for here? Not event, but there's a feature that even though the torch itself, after a certain height, becomes like unbelievably hot, like blowtorch hot. At the lower level, for the first 6-7 feet, it's actually, you can get right up to it and work metal in it. And no one can really explain why it works that way. It just does. Every now and then the torch will flare up and go out. So there's basically this whole situation where someone keeps an eye out for flickering in the flame. Everyone moves their things back. The flame flashes out and then they get back. That was, of course, learned through harsh lesson. The last community I want to mention is one called Yedenve. And Yedenve is down to the southwest of Torch. Yedenve is basically like a Luddite's dream. It is a community founded by worshippers of Erastil, who is the god of like home and hearth and hunting to a degree. But they take it to the extreme where they hate and distrust any kind of technology. Like even alchemists are like, you're getting a little too fancy there, son. If you think of like angry Amish with pointy sticks, you're in the right ballpark for what Yadenve's like. So, for instance, Vortimer, you really don't want to be going to Yadenve. Or at least you don't want them to be aware that you're an android.
Yeah, I bumped my disguise skill.
Yeah, and actually, same thing for Algar as well too. You likewise, because of the markings of your nanite powers, you're likely kind of, they see you as they would likely see you as cursed. Fortunately, there's not really an easy way to get to Yadenve. So it's not like you guys are doing regular trade with them. For the most part, Torch trades downriver, trades down the river to go to Hadro Hakados, and then elsewhere into either north to one of the bigger communities like Chesed, or south into the River Kingdoms, and then elsewhere. Torch, that's pretty much all you need to know about Numeria for now. You can see there's this scar of the spider over here, and that's just there is one more thing that I think is you guys would have had exposure to. That's Castle Urion. So those who are familiar with the Pathfinder world will be able to easily tell you why there is a giant rent in the earth in the top left of the screen, and why there's a giant Balrog that's standing there with a flaming sword and flaming whip. And the reason for that is because that is where the World Wound is located. And the World Wound is basically a planar fissure through which all sorts of awful, horrible things pour. The reason that Numeria has not been overwhelmed or overrun by those things is largely thanks to a series of crusades that have been spearheaded by the Church of Yomade. And Yomade is the goddess of, like, basically your generic good goddess. Castle Urion is kind of like a waypoint for crusaders heading north from elsewhere further south in Golarion. And the reason, you guys probably haven't traveled there very much. It is kind of out of the way, and it's across a really dangerous stretch of the Numerian wilds. But the reason why you may be aware of it is because they are known for their Griffin Riders. And I imagine that at one point, each of you have seen one of the caravans that would come from Castle Urion to Torch to trade in supplies. You may have seen them flying these amazing flying griffins.
I have seen nothing.
Yeah, you would not have seen. What's that sound? It's nothing. Don't worry, BP. So what does everyone? I guess that. Let's see here. Let's talk about Torch itself. Where's my map? Here we go. Boom. There, guys. This is your hometown. So the only things I really want to point out for now, and then we'll get into it later, is you can see the lavender or violet kind of little ping at the top there. That is the Torch itself, right at the top of the Black Hill. That's where, if you guys have, if anyone has worked as a blacksmith or as a laborer or something like that, lugging stuff up or down that long road, then you would be familiar with the Torch for sure. The scrapyard is located right here, and there's a couple of your characters. I'm going to have a link to that. Let's see here. The Forge Tavern. So all of you guys know a gent by the name of Connor Bain, and Connor Bain is kind of like the local, tech wizard. He's a spellcaster, and he seems to have a good deal of knowledge about the local technology. Let me see here. Do I have a handout? No, I'll have to move us to the NPC sheet in a sec. I'll talk about him in a moment. The only other thing I want to mention is this structure right here that I'm pinging. That is the Crowfoot Palace. What the Crowfoot Palace is a structure that are basically a advanced technology place that's there to make the water from the pond safe to drink, because it's otherwise full of horrible toxins and weird fluids that come from. One of the things that you can find across the Numerian wilds is strange liquids that are from exotic other planets in some cases, or other planes, and then they have been further altered by the permeating magic of this region. When you consume them, they can have all sorts of crazy effects. Mutations, some beneficial, some really not. But this thing, the pond or the drinking water, people sort of just drank it without, without, or just accepting that was the only source of potable water. But the Crowfoot Palace is something that Connor built a couple of years back, and something he maintains, and it makes the water, while it still smells terrible, it is actually safe and completely free of any kind of bad things. So let's just move to the NPCs here, and I just want to put some faces to names. Now, we're not going to meet all these guys necessarily right away, but Connor Bain does have a connection to many of you guys. And in the film version of our campaign, Connor is played, and this is really unfortunate now, given at the time of recording the news cycle, I've always had him being played by Liam Neeson, but
it's fine.
yeah. Connor Bain didn't go into a blind racist, thing, period.
What? News to me. I might.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
All right. Well,
Yeah, like
really
I said,
unfortunate timing for. I really should have thought of that beforehand.
Yeah, I don't see
might
actors
wanna
like
change
characters.
So he may be recast between the pilot and the actual first episode, but
It's going to be like that movie that Kevin Spacey got removed from.
Yeah.
the role of Connor Bain is now played by who was it? It was God, he's in Star Trek V. Not Peter Cushing.
Gonna say he almost reminds me of the actor who plays Elrond in Lord of the Rings.
Perfect. That's what he's going to be, is Hugo Weaving, because I can do a half-ass Hugo Weaving impression. So that's absolutely the hairline for sure.
Yeah, speaking of actors, I figured out who I want to play my character.
Oh yeah, who's playing the Blind Prophet?
Gerard Butler.
Oh, sorry, it's John.
Yeah,
Who-
Gerard Butler
I mean-
from Sparta. Just think older, scraggly, longer beard and hair.
Love it. Yeah, that's great. Okay.
Oh, I forgot
I
to
know.
mention, Kyrus has an eye patch because he damaged an eye in a fight with a robot, so he's a robot slayer. So
Awesome.
he's half blind.
Now, does he have Gerard Butler's Scottish accent?
I am not too terribly good with that, but I'll try.
I'll give you a fair warning right now. I'm terrible with accents, but that does not stop me from doing them.
Yeah.
So if you are
Asking.
inclined, you go nuts. Okay, so that's probably enough of an info dump right now. I just wanted to put some faces to names. Let's talk about the mechanics. Does anyone have any lingering mechanical questions about their characters, or any issues we need to deal with?
Yeah, because I'm not completely finished with mine. So
Sure.
One of the questions I had from the more Pathfinder experienced people, for a barbarian, what is the is there any reason not to go with medium armor?
If you want to go like ranged dex build, and you'll have a dex bonus high enough that you'd get more armor out of light, or more armor class out of light than medium. But if not, yeah, generally just go with medium.
Yeah, medium's good, unless you got like invulnerable rage and you can wear heavy armor. But if you're using
Okay.
a halberd, I think you got reach weapons, so having a
Yeah,
decent dex is good.
a decent dex.
Yeah, like I have a 14
Oh.
because I have a combat reflexes and a long spear. So,
Okay.
yeah, I'd say, 13, 14, and then magic items to boost it further, make up for that dex to armor.
Sure. All right. Yeah, because I haven't finished buying my gear either, because I wasn't sure about that question and a few other things.
Gotcha.
It takes a little longer to put on when you're sleeping, but that's the only
Okay.
other downside.
Yeah, I usually recommend light armor like Lamellar for first level, and then you get bigger stuff as you go.
Okay, I'll probably go that way. That fits the image I have of the character too. So the other question the other quick question I had is what in the area, what kind of mounts other than horses are common in this area?
Horses is pretty much what you would encounter. There's not like, Dark Sun style, giant ant things or anything like that. And actually
Camels,
there is
maybe?
one of the Kelid tribes does
much.
actually, their shtick is kind of like they're the mounted ones. I think they're called the Black Horses, actually. So the if you want to play like kind of a Mongol influenced barbarian kind of background, where there your life kind of like relies or revolves around the horse, then that's there's certainly precedent in the setting for that. Otherwise, it's just there's no giant goats or anything like that.
No bison riders anywhere.
No bison riders, although I love that idea.
That's what I was looking at.
Yeah. Because you know what? Look at this. There's suddenly bison in.
He just befriended a cow and just got a bison. That's
Yeah, I'm happy now. That's what I wanted.
Yeah. So I mean, like it will be. We'll figure out what the stats and stuff will be. But I mean, this is Pathfinder. I imagine I can find stats for a bison in there.
They're in the SRD.
Yeah, you can find.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
look for an
Yeah, that's fine. I actually, so the
perfect.
Just as an aside, like where I'm Canadian and the Canadian province I grew up in, the bison is their symbol. Like there's bison fucking everywhere on everything, so I love that. And then we played in an Iron Kingdoms RPG where like there's one of the races in it, the Trollkin, which are kind of like just player versions of Troll. They're all bison riders too.
Nice.
Because horses hate them, so I was like, more bison.
Nice.
So yes, you made my day, Brandon.
All right, I'm happy. You made my day too, so I can. Okay.
Well, that's actually pretty useful. If you're digging in the scrap, you can probably use it to haul your stuff.
That's what I was thinking primarily he's used for, just a pack animal that he occasionally rides.
Okay.
Yeah, well, from my character, he works a lot with the one of the half-orc blacksmith. So he goes scavenging quite a bit, so we could know each other from that.
Did we? Totally. Did we have a name for that guy?
I haven't picked him yet, but do you want me to name him?
He is what's his name? Ray Winston is the actor who's going to play him.
Call him Ragnar.
Love it. Okay, so Ragnar is the guy who came from. He's got a bit of a the scars on his face, the limp that he sort of walks with a lot of the time. The burns on his body tell you that there's a pretty substantial backstory to Ragnar's life, but he doesn't really talk about it. He is, determined. He sort of intentionally doesn't share what has gone on before. But from what we had talked about before we went live, John, that your character sort of drew some of his
stories and inspiration
centering, from that. And Gunther, I was thinking that this guy's actually, I'm going to replace him with the NPC in the book as the one who owns the scrapyard. So maybe like that's how you know him as well. I don't want to force like, hey, there's two half-orcs in here and they're related. But there is a half-orc community, and maybe whoever your parents were, they just sort of got you working with Ragnar.
Yeah, absolutely. He could have easily been drawn to him because of the half-orc connection. That makes perfect sense. He'd be able to sympathize with him. I did want to mention too, casting for Gunther, because he's still fairly young. I imagine Channing Tatum in a good half-orc, Lord of the Rings or
Love it.
Warcraft type makeup. So
yeah,
if you saw his performance in Foxcatcher, where he was very physical, and almost ape-like at times, imagine that for Gunther.
That is great.
Yeah, Kyrus is about 25-ish, so he's been around a little bit.
Okay. Now, what about Vortimer? What are you? We don't need to pick a specific connection just yet, but like, tell me a little bit about, or tell us a little bit about your, what he's been doing over the last couple of years.
So I have first a question or two just about how androids work in the setting. Do androids have to eat and drink anything, or do they have? Okay.
Yep. I mean, they're biological organisms.
Okay.
They can get sick and whatever, but they're just different. Like
You ever play Mass Effect?
I haven't played. Well, I played the demo for Mass Effect 2.
Well, in the end, there drew a lot of controversy. There's like 3 endings and 1 synthesis where they combine technology and biology together. So that's kind of what an android would be.
All right. Excellent. So Vortimer is, I think, principally a hunter. And what he does sort of on the side is that he likes to scrimshaw animal bones. He makes art out of them, and that's a sort of, to make money, to buy arrows, to go out hunting and all that sort of stuff. And then I think he's got pretty good knowledge geography. So I think he's kind of a guide, hang out in the tavern. And if an adventuring party needs to get somewhere, or if there's a noble who needs to get from one place to another, or a military force that needs a scout, Vortimer is able to pitch in that way.
Okay. So one of the things that, or one of the ways that Torch actually differs from some other starting kind of towns, is that Torch isn't like this, the launching point for a lot of expeditions and stuff like that. Like it really is it's a town that's built around an industry, rather than like, hey, this is near, I mean, my immediate connection goes to Helix. If any of you guys have watched the Barrow Maze or, own Barrow Maze, there's a town right next to this ancient, dungeon. And the primary industry is like just paying the fools who want to go out and die in the dungeon. So you see a lot of like hirelings and stuff like that there. That's not the case with Torch. Torch is really, it's a community where, it's a bit of an oasis from the otherwise really horrible shit that you can find out in the rest of Numeria. Not only the horrific monsters and mutants and dangerous magic, but also the predations of the Technic League. Like for some of you guys, in particular for Arlen and for Alger, you guys would be aware that the Technic League would love to get you back to Starfall and get you guys under the knives to see what the hell is going on with you. Like that's the fusing of this Skyfall technology from the ancient past, Alger. That's fascinating. If they can figure out a way to repurpose that and get that to work for some of their soldiers, that would be terrific. So you likely have both been told to sort of, steer well fucking clear of the Technic League. And and I guess the other thing, Alger, do you see yourself as a like a hunter as well, like a traditional kind of Kelid as well?
I did pick up a skill in survival just because I figured he'd been on his own for a while. Perhaps at one point he was the kind of the laggard in that respect of his tribe, but I think at this point he's had to survive on his own. So yeah, I mean he does have some ability.
Well, the reason I ask is I wonder if Vortimer, I think that the Kelids may not be kosher with, I know you said that you're not like openly being an android, but you guys get a penalty to your charisma and you get I think a penalty to like sense motive or something like that as well.
A penalty to sense motive, yes. Yeah,
so like you're just a little off. Like, I think we've all met someone who you're just like, boy, things are just not clicking here. So I think people might, like Kelids may pick up that you're, something's not, I don't know what you are, but don't really want you around. So maybe that's why you and Alger have, know each other that's someone who would be willing to hunt with you.
Yeah, that's good. And I kind of imagine.
Oh, go ahead, John.
Sounds exactly like what a 6 charisma tiefling is felt for around. It's like, there's something wrong with you.
The androids have a problem processing emotion, which is why morale doesn't work very well for them. So that can play into it. It's kind of like low charisma.
Well, and I think Vortimer, it's low charisma as kind of off but intense, if that makes sense. Kind of, to tie into the Roy Batty thing that he's...
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, he's got a sort of intense energy to him that just kind of rubs people who aren't like that the wrong way.
That's so good.
Since he can, run all day in the wasteland hunting down animals and stuff, and people are sort of like, what on earth?
Okay. So if I can shift the focus to the blind prop. So a couple things is I don't think like people around town, the people that they're not going to call you the blind prophet. So what do people call you? What do they call you?
I imagine they all have affectionate nicknames. Like some of them who dislike it maybe just be like that tiefling, like the one who moved in recently. Others probably may have like stupid affectionate nicknames like Blinky because she can't blink.
I'm calling her Prophet.
I like BP.
Prophet.
Okay.
Yeah. I imagine like for those she is decent with around town, like she probably uses like a diviner's fortune on someone, like, hey, you should be careful, that roof's gonna collapse in like 3 minutes, and that's that +1 to a skill check that prevents him from dying that day. Like that might be the extent of people interacting with her. Just like she never gave anybody a name, she just kind of came.
What does Connor call her? Does he just call her like my dear or something like that? Or
Connor generally referred to her as my dear. He may have another name for her, but again, she never gave him her name because after her incident, she has given nobody her name because she feels it's a vulnerability.
Okay, so yeah, we'll just say my dear. I think that's probably good. That's him respecting her willingness to to open up to the degree that she has, while still not giving it something that's not just this mysterious stranger kind of name.
She actually does have a name, though. If you want to know it, like for out of character things, she does have a name.
It's up to you whether you want to. I mean, if you want to save that for a moment to reveal that, that when it's a role playing appropriate thing, I'm cool with. There's no reason I need to necessarily know that. So if you want to hold on to that, that's awesome to know that that's forthcoming at some point.
Okay. It may never come up.
Yeah, exactly. It may not come up, but who knows? So because of your charisma, because of your race as well, I think that probably what people are assuming when you're doing those helpful things is like, she fucking cursed me.
It could be, yeah.
Like she was going to make this thing collapse, but now I know. Oh, that's it. So what you're doing. That's helpful. I wanted to talk. Well, I guess one thing I wanted to say as well too, just because I've been reading something else. So I'm going to be running a one shot for of something for Black History Month, and I've been reading Chris Spivey's Harlem Unbound to kind of get some ideas for how to approach that in a respectful and appropriate way. And there's some really good advice in there for doing that. And I thought I'd just touch on quickly the fact that you're playing a character who is disabled. We're going to be approaching this with we're not going to be having this be pratfalls and like constantly like, haha, you bumped into shit kind of circumstances. This is an interesting character trait, and we're going to be running this and playing the character in a way that is not, played for laughs or anything like that. So just wanted to quickly say that.
The extent of humor that will come from it is just like, you see that it's a red button, and I'm like, I don't see anything.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to be, 80s sitcom stuff where they're constantly bumping into shit and falling down.
No, she's got, okay, cool. She actually has a trait that prevents that, so yeah, it's not.
Cool. Okay, so Gunther, let's see here. What have I got here? How does the prophet? Go ahead, Isaac.
I was going to say, in terms of actress, it's a toss-up between whether it should be Pink, who is a song or a singer/actress, and I've seen her in a couple of things. She would fit the look that I've got here, or like a mid-90s Lori Petty, whom also kind of fits this look.
I like the second one.
Yeah. Okay. So that's awesome. Yeah. Either those. Do you have a preference for one or the other?
Both are fine. Whatever you feel is appropriate.
Okay. Let's go with the second. Okay. So let's see. We've cast, I think, everyone except for Algar.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it. The one thing I was thinking of is first of like a young Jake Gyllenhaal. But then you said something about Siberians, and then I thought from the same film, I was thinking of Donnie Darko, the guy who actually played Frank the Bunny Rabbit. Is kind of big, which is, I don't even know the actor's name.
Yeah,
that's who it is. He's a Native American actor. I can't remember his name.
It's a James something, isn't it?
Yeah,
I'm blanking on it too.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of, because I definitely do think there's a little bit of a Donnie Darko vibe, and that there's things going on in this guy's head, and he's young, and it kind of makes him a little bit of an asshole, but he really does not get along well with the direction fate has taken him.
Okay.
But he's still going down that path anyway.
Yeah. So, okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got everyone cast now. Brandon, do you have any other mechanical questions about Algar?
I'm still looking at equipment at this point. The only thing I'm thinking is
he is a Blood Rager, right?
Yeah, he's a Blood Rager.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm seeing things like, because I'm looking right now, I'm trying to save up enough money to get that bison. So I'm going for the cheaper medium armors. There's bison are surprisingly cheap in this. I have no
idea how much bison are.
They are like they're like Well, I'll find it. But I was looking at scale mail. There's an arcane spell failure chance of 25%.
Oh, you don't got to worry about that.
Yeah, I don't. Okay. Well, and I don't have spells at this level anyway.
Nope.
So yeah, later. I assume later in the game I can upgrade to something else.
Yeah, but Blood Ragers can cast in their armor and while they're raging. So.
Oh, cool. All right, I like that. All right, so because that's only
4th level spells. So.
Yeah, they all and it says there's only 25. I mean, it says that's really cheap compared to the rest of the medium armor. So
yeah.
I was going for that. All right, I think between that, got a halberd, got scale mail. Now I'm gonna get my bison.
Okay.
All right.
If you
I don't know if we want to spend too much time me shopping.
We'll see. Does anybody? Oh, one thing I wanted to find out, Isaac, is how does Prophet deal with the kind of day-to-day stuff, and also her class specific stuff? Like, how do you see her? Like reading scrolls or studying her spells or things like that. Like, is she making excessive use of read magic or?
Read magic being a cantrip that all wizards can cast from memory has a big advantage there. I've also written it kind of into that little mini story that I wrote of just her and Connor in her bio, that she's been blind for basically a decade, and Vildai's clerics did teach her, and they're all about that kind of thing, where it's like it takes her extra time, but she can feel like, because we're in a time without like the printing press or anything like that for the most part. So there's like an imperceptible divot for when you write into paper, and she can sort of feel that. It just takes her the extra time. It's like, okay, so that's a D because it's like that's the loop of that page. Because she can read magic, she can see people's life auras, which I did have a mechanical question. I'm going to have to ask about that when we have a little minute of downtime. And then she can cast.
Sorry, hold on. She can see people's life auras?
Yes, she has the alternate tiefling racial trait, so she doesn't have the darkness ability or the charisma bonus for if she was a sorcerer. Instead, she has Soul Seer, which is at will Death Watch, which is a spell that allows you to see how healthy something is, whether it is alive or dead, etc. So she can see the life force of.
Okay, but it takes you a standard action to use it, I guess, eh?
Yeah, and then lasts 10 minutes per level, so it's just
okay.
She takes a moment, and that's a part of how she perceives. But the mechanical question with that is how Vortimer and Ulgar as androids show up to Deathwatch.
Living.
Yeah, they're living creatures. Like I think they what is it? They wear. If I remember correctly, they have both the construct and the humanoid subtype. So like whatever one applies, that's what applies.
Yep.
It's the worst. It's the worst case of either. And since they can't be healed by, there's a lot of like weirdness to the androids in Pathfinder compared to Starfinder.
Actually, in Pathfinder, they don't have that weird construct thing where they only heal half. They're counted as living for healing. You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. And then the worst would be, I think, being detected. Like it would be there would be benefits to not being detected by a magical spell. So I'm gonna say that you can see them.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's the question: is do they show up as construct or living? Because Deathwatch can also tell the difference between an undead and a living creature, as well as if something is a magical construct in some form. But I don't think it's.
Well, he's not a magical construct. So what it would probably read is just like androids would read as just a slightly weird aura, I imagine. Okay. Yeah. So
So if the imaginary color for everyone is generally green, they're yellow for some reason, and it's like,
or they'd have a hint of blue in them or something, or something like that. Whatever, however narratively you want to describe that.
Yeah, I do plan to grab Technomancy as a skill or as a spell later because it's incredibly useful to this game. I'm not starting with it because it doesn't seem appropriate to start with, but
no, it actually I don't let you guys start with anything from the
technology guide.
Book. Yeah, just because it's like that's part of the fun of the adventure is actually like learning and being exposed to that stuff. But there's a really good chance that might be a way of rewarding stuff to you guys. So
yeah, because I was going to ask about technologists, and you made that clear in the guidelines. So
yeah, sorry, that's what. That's what I had a question about too. How did Gunther get his beaten old gun?
Junk, found it in the junkyard.
And like, does it have it? Is it something that has kind of like the Alkenstar seal on it, or is it something that's like a repurposed ancient Numerian kind of gun, or what?
These are those little devil in the details that I'm still working out. But
Sure.
if we're gonna talk it out, hey, he found the gun. It's got the Alkenstar seal on it, and had the copy of Pathfinder Chronicles there all together. So he found it all at the same time.
Nice. So there's probably a backstory behind that. Someone who may have given up their, either given up their life or given up their career.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. Cool.
Or it could be remnants from someone that was killed.
Well, that's something giving up their life. Like, it could very well be someone who, got bushwhacked. There is a definitely, like, near where Torch is, there is a Kellid tribe called the Bloody Gars, or the Blood Gars, that are just basically like, imagine, Conan, but a pirate. That's kind of who these guys are. So one of the reasons there are mercenaries that are kicking around and are for hire in Torch, but they're all caravan guards and much needed because of the danger of moving shit from Torch down to Hadro Thakatos and then further into the River Kingdoms. Okay, great. So I think we've got pretty much all the questions I had, at least all I can think of right now. Does anyone have any other questions about their characters, about the backstory or anything like that? Or the setting?
There's a question I had. Since my character lost his, or most use of his left eye because of a robot slayer incident, he has this goal of getting one of those fancy cybernetic eyes to replace it later on. Is that something I would know about now, being available? Or
so the place where you guys kind of all socialize is a place called the Foundry Tavern that's actually operated by Connor. It's near his shop as well. And the people who aren't the most popular place in Torch to sort of for people coming in who really want to like whoop it up is a place called Silver Disc Hall. And so the Silver Disc, just for those who aren't familiar, is the currency that's used here. It's basically these little like they look like coins, but they have this like burnt circuitry on them. Like meta in a way, it's basically burnt. It's like used or spent batteries.
Cool.
That are used ubiquitously. So that's what the currency is. This place is called Silver Disc Hall. It's run by a guy named, is it Sander? Hold on here.
Oh, Sandville? I saw him on the NPC sheet.
No, it's not Sanville Tret. Sanville is a different guy. Sanville you will meet in the session. Is it Geralt Sander? No. Hold on, I gotta go to the damn sheet. I think it's Gorham something or other. Let me see here. Garmin Ulrith.
Garmin.
Yeah. So we've got no thieves or rogues in the group, right?
Since I'm a skald, I got access to quite a bit of knowledge skills and stuff.
Okay. Anyone got knowledge underworld? Is that a skill?
Knowledge all.
No?
I am a VMC bard, so that bardic knowledge kind of kicks in.
Let's hear it.
I've only got a local,
yeah. Who's got knowledge local trained?
Not at the moment, but as I level, I'm going to be grabbing basically every knowledge because wizard.
Yeah. So being a bard, that bardic knowledge thing kind of lets me make untrained checks for skills.
Sure. So then I'll say that you sort of know, because it's not, it's sort of a, widely known and just sort of ignored secret. But Garmin Ulrith is also sort of. There's a group of like the sort of local thieves guild is this group called the Rope Fists, and the kind of what you would know, Kairos, is that it's pretty much understood that Garmin Ulrith, the guy who's behind the Silver Disc Hall, which is like a gambling and drinking kind of establishment, he's the guy who's connected to the Rope Fists as well.
Okay.
So he's the like archetypical smiling, suited, mafioso who has a gang of back alley thugs backing up his power.
Great, I hate him already.
Yeah, he's a lovely guy. You're gonna you're gonna love killing him at some point, I'm sure. All right, what else? The other person you guys know in town is we'll meet that in person. I very much prefer a show don't tell kind of approach for exposition. Although I have stolen something from what do you call it? From the Glass Cannon podcast, and I started introducing characters whose names are like exposition whatever. In Barrow Maze, we have an NPC called Exposition Grandma, like fills in,
Like
shows
Basil,
up, and will fill in exposition and get the fuck out of there.
like Expedition Basil.
Yeah.
I just watched those movies.
Oh, okay.
Question about the silver discs.
Yeah, of course.
Going into this, do we know the value of all the silver discs, and also how are you clear on it? Because there was a lot of confusion about the value of silver discs and in relation to charged and uncharged and batteries.
Well, I'm assuming the uncharged ones. The uncharged ones are the ones that are used as the common currency. The value of the charged ones, I can't tell you right now. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, when one shows up in the game.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see here. I've read through the sticky thread of all the issues that people have had with the campaign as well. And so I'm going to just deal with it in game rather than like figure out beforehand. We'll just cross. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
It's when the batteries and silver discs interact is where the problems all started. So yeah.
Yeah. Again, I think that the adventure, it was written at the same time as the technology guide, but I'm not sure that they had the rules finalized for like labs and stuff like that by the time the first couple ones came out.
Yeah, they were concurrent. That's the problem. They have to write things so far in advance. So
yeah,
you had a little bit of inconsistencies between the two. But
yeah,
I just wanted to ask up front to see what.
Sure.
What knew, so
yeah, no, I haven't turned my mind.
good.
But it's a good question though, and what I'll do, Jamie, is I'll take a look at it between now and the next session, and I'll see if I can come up with an answer for you. Just once you guys start getting access to those things. The other thing too is so there are this came out before those who are in the game have heard this already because of my the video we circulated, but for those listening at home, this adventure path came out before Ultimate Campaign, before Ultimate Intrigue, before Ultimate Wilderness. So there's none of those rules are incorporated by default into the campaign, but I am going to try some of those out because I like them. And just as a reminder as well, too, guys, if you find something doesn't fit for your character or you want to try something different, anytime you're back in town, we're going to use Pathfinder 2nd Edition rules, and you can just spend a week and retrain. Okay, so like as we go along, if you find like, boy, I've really, or like if you come, if you find a magic item and you're like, wow, this is something I really should have fucking done my feats for, you can retrain your character for that. I'm completely fine.
There are a lot of feats, and it's hard to tell which ones are useful and which ones aren't just from looking at them.
Oh,
yeah.
So, a question about retraining.
yeah.
In Ultimate Campaign, it costs to retrain. So, in 2nd Edition, is it free to
free.
retrain?
Yep,
Okay.
free. You just need time.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Question. In my personal experience as a GM, our group has started a kind of a house rule that has been fairly interesting so far and worked out very well as far as role playing goes. And we do like background skills from the Ultimate Campaign, or is it Unchained, where you get 2 extra skill points and you have to spend them in the select skills in order to branch out your character's knowledge.
Yeah.
The house rule we are using is every even level, when you normally wouldn't get a character feat, you can pick up what we call a social trait or social feat.
Yep.
Which would be a feat specifically designed outside of combat, such as maybe a skill focus or a story feat.
Okay.
But it might be an idea because it helps us.
Yeah, let's see. I think what we'll do is for now we'll get our feet wet with the actual game itself, and then if we retroactively add that, then we can just add 2 of those for when you guys hit level 3.
Yeah, it kind of it like helps out. Like if you want to be like sleight of hand and stealthy, you could pick up the feat that boost both or deceitful or.
No, and that's what, like I've used the background skills option for another Pathfinder thing before, and the only reluctance I have is that I'm not trying to rebalance stuff in this, and I really do want to let dice fall where they may. And what I have done every time I've run Pathfinder before is I've erred on the side of making characters mechanically too effective. Like basically, the characters have been just. The sort of hard scrabble heroes thing that I like about Pathfinder, I have broken by making allowing for characters that are just too powerful. That what you're suggesting doesn't sound like that's going to be a problem.
Yeah,
so
strictly just non-combat. You cannot take a combat-oriented feat on those even levels.
yeah.
So.
No, but I like that idea because it gives you a chance to get more of the options to the table. What does everyone else think about that? Does that give you some interesting options for your characters or what?
Yeah, you can pick up.
I think just in terms of it, I'm planning around level 8 and 9 going I think it's the Lore Keeper prestige class, which is the second time that people hearing about my terrible wizard will now have a small aneurysm because it is a horrible, doesn't add much prestige class compared to just being raw wizard. But
I love it.
But I am going to be taking skill focuses anyway because that actually does contribute to getting into that. So that just kind of gives me free abilities to go down routes that I could already go down anyway. Because as a wizard, I don't need as many combat-based feats as everyone else. At best, I'm taking extra meta magic, which I get for free as a wizard.
So one thing it reminds me as well that I'm likely going to do is with there's two things I want to one I want to propose to you guys and one I want to get your thoughts on. The other one is just I'm going to be doing it this way. If you have a certain level in or certain ranks in a lore, I'm not going to make you roll for information for some things. And I run Delta Green as well, which is a horror modern game based on Call of Cthulhu. And one of the things that they do to get around the oh, you don't find the clue, so I guess we don't get any further here, is just that if you have a certain level of skill in things, you get certain information automatically. It's assumed that your character is trained and experienced enough to be able to put 2 and 2 together. And that's their rationale behind it is because the drama in not finding a clue is not worth the dice roll, you know?
Yeah.
So it's not like, ho, you didn't know what, blah, blah, blah. So I'm probably, if you're going to invest points in the lore skills, that's what I'm going to let you're going to gain automatic information sometimes. Nice. Related to that, so that gives some extra value to those lore skills. In Pathfinder 2nd Edition, people can make untrained knowledge checks. And I found that really fucking cool because you don't have to sit around like, okay, does anyone have, knowledge local? And then there's crickets. This gives you an opportunity. I don't. What I would say is that if you don't have to differentiate between the value in putting points in that and not, is that if you put points into your or ranks into your skill, you're going to get those automatic information. If you don't, you got to roll for it. Okay. That sound okay?
Sounds good to me.
I've got a pretty good +4 to all knowledges, though.
Yeah, no, I think you're the one who it sounds like you're kind of designing your character around the idea of having a lot of knowledges. I just want to make sure that doesn't rob your character of the spotlight kind of time that you were thinking he was or she was going to have.
Not at all.
Awesome.
Half of it's just being a wizard. Wizard gives all knowledges as class skills and intelligence as a main skill or as their main ability score. So you just have skill points to spend, and going Lore Keeper is going to give me almost double my number of skill points. So I'm going to have at least 1 point in each knowledge, and I think the Lore Master adds half their Lore Master level to knowledge checks. So it's going to be, I want to roll knowledge because I want to know everything about the thing we just ran into.
Mm-hmm. Have any of you guys used the reputation rules from Ultimate Campaign?
I have not.
No?
Not as of yet. I did use Honor from 5th edition, though.
Okay.
D&D.
How about you, Jamie? Did you use it yet?
Parts of reputation, parts of fame, also status from Midgard rules. They're all kind of similar. You accumulate points that create the score as your character levels up or commits.
Did you find it added to the game, or is it unnecessary bookkeeping?
It is bookkeeping, but I find that people enjoy doing that during downtime or between major adventures. You like having that little extra bit of adventure that you can add, little more detail that you can add.
Okay, so because I like them the way they read, so I'm probably we'll use that then, and then I'll figure out how we're going to implement that in the next session. The other thing is
the fame, using the fame in conjunction with the faction guide and being able to join groups is really interesting because you have to build fame within the group.
Yep, and that's actually my next question is, so I use reputation rules in pretty much every other fantasy game I run because I love that. To me, it's a way beyond just getting XP for you to get benefits and seeing advancement for your character. And I like the rules from Ultimate Intrigue a lot. Arlen is familiar with this because I've got some. He hasn't made it to the hometown yet, but in my Astonishing Swordsman and Sorcerers of Hyperborea game, I'm using faction rules. In my Barrow Maze game, I use faction rules. So I'm going to use something similar in this. And then maybe that's what I'd like to do is to give you options. Now, the only thing I want to I'm going to probably hold off to implement them until after the first adventure, or until substantially into the first adventure, and then I'll retroactively add some stuff. And the reason being is because it sometimes distracts focus if there is a clear adventure. So like, because I have had in our Barrow Maze game, which is a game all about exploring a dungeon, we spent about 2 months with the guys futzing around with NPCs in town, and like it was great and they had fun. But if what you were signing up for and showing up for was to explore a dungeon, you're like, why are we talking to druids again? This is bullshit. So that's what I'll probably do then. It's just I'll hold off until we get through this, but and that'll give me time to figure out what the factions will be. Because I know that Algar, you're just itching to get in with the Technic League, right?
No, I might be not quite. Well,
Okay,
getting into it in one sense of the term, I wouldn't mind, perhaps, but we'll see.
Yeah.
If by get in you mean inserting a spear into their ribs, then you're close.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Okay, cool. That's great. Thanks for the advice on the fame rules. That sounds cool. Because I kind of like the idea of like, you guys showing up in a community and people are like, oh, I don't know, whispering, did you know that so-and-so?
Well, it works with a lot of things that you talked about too, as well, like cohorts and whatnot. Like some factions, you can spend a point to to have cohorts do something for you, and so it works into all levels of the game.
Well, I love it because we've got at least three players who are real solid on Pathfinder rules. So I'm not reluctant to have that part of the game. Like what I don't want is for you guys to have to hire hirelings to be like, the cannon fodder that takes the first charge, right? But I mean, I do want it to be something where if you guys find that there's an area where you would benefit, that's where older versions of D&D are like, well, fuck it, we'll just hire a cleric.
We might need to do that.
Yes. Turn Undead isn't quite as critical in Pathfinder because of the sort of neutered level drain rules, but
right. Well, you know the story of how Robilar cleared out the Tomb of Horrors, right? In the old Dungeons and Dragons. Well, he just hired underlings. He just had an army of orcs go in before him. He just said, "You guys go in first." They all got slaughtered. He walked in behind them.
Yeah, I was making that joke about Barrow Maze that at some point they're just going to be running the guild in town that hires people, sends them out, and takes a cut of the treasure, and you don't have to do any adventuring at all.
Yes,
that's where you stop getting experience.
I know.
We've our roster of like dead henchmen in that campaign. We're 31 sessions in, and there's at least an equal number of dead henchmen.
Wow.
Yeah, it's insanely deadly. Oh God.
I was actually working on one of my own campaign settings I've never gotten around to running. I was working on an idea of like where like dungeon delving is like the primary industry of the country, and like they have companies that are dedicated with people coming in there with like little what are like roustabouts with 10-foot poles poking around, and that's it is just like, and they just clear out dungeons in like in record time, and then the idea is like the PCs are like wildcatters trying to stake out their claims onto their dungeons, and
that's awesome
because it just doesn't. Yeah, I mean, like why? I mean, if there's this much gold compared to like you look at the cost of services and like the player's handbook, like why bother? Like make this an industry.
I have a cybernetic eye to buy. I need gold.
Exactly.
Also, Longspear will be poking at the ground, just so you know.
Yeah, so I guess that's the one thing to reiterate as well, is that in keeping with my kind of old school leanings as a DM, I'm going to be, and this is something I steal from Pathfinder 2nd Edition too, since anything where the results of your skill checks are going to be unknown to the character, I'm going to be rolling them for you. So perception checks, sense motive checks, stealth checks probably. But what I will be doing though in connection with that is the dice will fall where they may. If you guys are succeeding, I'm not going to fuck you over just to try and make like, I really want to have a combat encounter. I spent 3 hours on this. You guys are fighting this fucking thing. What do you call it?
It's one of the rules that that DMs know that players hate is if a DM has a secret role and it will advance the game or make it more interesting, they will lie about it. And I am totally okay with the fact that they will lie about it.
You know, it's one thing because of the like I mentioned in the video I shot for you guys too, that like I'll fudge things like hit points and stuff like that, but so my perspective on role-playing game, like the thing that differs role-playing games from other things like, you know, plays or movies, TV and stuff like that, video games, is that element of unexpected for everyone involved, you know, where like, holy shit, I didn't expect that dice result to come up. And I have been trying in the last couple of years to really embrace that. So like random encounters, I don't fudge them. We just sort of see what happens. Dice rolls for things, I really try to make sure I leave them however they are, because that's part of, to be honest, it's part of the fun for me as well, is seeing like, boy, that really took a turn I didn't expect, you know. And the way that I explain that is we're not, I don't have a preset outcome for any of these things that I'm bringing you guys through. We're seeing what the dice is telling us what's happening, you know. Speaking of which, though, let's talk about hero points.
Oh yeah, I was about to ask about that.
Yeah, so I'm going to use to start with, I'm going to use the rules as written. I actually might implement the mythic rules a little later because I do really love those. The only thing I don't like about the mythic rules, to be honest, is the auto stabilization. The death spiral in Pathfinder is actually really forgiving, and I think it's cool. Like I think it's a dramatic kind of like fuck, someone get to him, you know, kind of thing. Yep. And the fact that mythic just takes that away altogether is the only thing about it that I'm not really keen on. But in addition to everything you can do with the hero point, so like, you know, spend it to get +8 before you make the roll, spend it to get +2 or +4 after you make the roll. I'm also going to allow you guys to do scene edits. So if you've got something where like I'm not of the mind that you know, well, you didn't say you were going to do X, so therefore you can't do it. You know, your characters are much more competent and mindful of their circumstances than what we are, right? So if you like say like, oh fuck, well I would have picked up, I was in town, I was going to pick up a healing potion, or you know, I was going to grab a rope or something that your character likely would have done, you can spend a hero point, edit the scene, and have that in your inventory. I'm totally fine with that. Like, and similar to like, if there's other things, if you want to add like a connection, say like if you want to use up a hero point to say, you know, I think I know someone in this town, or I think I know whatever else, we can do that too. It doesn't mean that they're going to like you necessarily. I probably will use, I can't remember if Pathfinder actually has this or not, but I'm probably going to randomly generate the standing with NPCs or the automatic starting thing, because that's a fun part of not only older versions of D&D, but like Savage Worlds does that, and it's a shit ton of fun. What I might do, though, is make the DCs for altering those more forgiving for you guys. I'll tie them more to your level rather than just the flat numbers that they are in the game as written.
And reputation too.
Oh, and reputation. That's right. Yeah, that'll play into that too. Cool.
But that's having like offset a bad charisma score or something, because charisma is how you appear to other people. It's not exactly how pretty or ugly you are. So. Yeah,
and that's what charisma is. Like in the OSR games I run, charisma gives you a modifier to hiring henchmen and stuff like that. And we've had some fantastic results from players who have used charisma as their dump stat, where henchmen are like, "Fuck no, you good luck.
You smell.
We're not working with you."
Charisma's not my dump stat. I just built this character thinking about D&D 5th Ed tieflings who have a bonus to charisma, and then I read Pathfinders, and it was hilarious, so I didn't change it.
No, and that's awesome. Like, and that fits. I'm really gonna like tieflings generally aren't like a terribly common race in Numeria. What's that?
The world wounds.
Well, I'd say the world wounds right there, but the thing is the reason they wouldn't be common is because of that association. Because there's gonna be so many people who have grown up with Yomadian face and whatever else, and it's still a pretty primitive setting. They're probably going to be like fucking demon touched, you know. And there's probably some truth to that too. Like the tieflings that are sent out, those are probably going to more easily get past those defenses that are set up around the world wound and do awful fucking things in the surrounding areas, right? In Numeria, in the River Kingdoms, in what's the one that's the Land of Mists to the where is it Brevoy? That's to the east of the
Nidal?
world wound.
No, Nidal's more southern.
Nidal's for the south, I think.
Yeah.
Usulav's not far, but I think that's southwest.
Yeah, Usulav is south as well too, because that's closer to that whatever those two nations that fight each other. I think it's Brevoy. I think it's Brevoy because that's the one with the that's where the Kingmaker AP starts off.
Yeah, that's right. I actually got that Pathfinder Kingmaker game.
Oh, cool.
So I'm just entering the River Kingdoms, the Smackdown. So
Nice.
I've heard mixed things about the Kingmaker game.
it all depends on how you go when looking at it.
It's fun.
Just think of it as GM you cannot argue with, and then you're fine.
It's a complete port of Pathfinder. So if you're unfamiliar with Pathfinder, there are things that will mess you up in the game.
Kineticist, which is the new expansion, they're amazing. I don't care what they say in the board game, but you can end encounters pretty quickly with them.
Oh yeah. So speaking of optional things too, occult adventures and horror adventures, I love those books. So I'll be using stuff from those.
Excellent.
Also, I think
You're bringing horror
no fear
into
rules.
this one
No
too.
fear rules.
every single campaign I run has a tinge of horror to it. So
That's great. I'm fine.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
playing in the Strange Aeons game right now, and I'm as a player, and fear rules, I don't like them. And my DM brought in sanity rules too. I'm like,
Yeah.
I just finished running In Search of Sanity, the first book of Strange Aeons. I incorporated the madness rules from Cthulhu for Pathfinder.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I got a phobia of something that was bad because I was playing a nature shaman. So I'm a shaman of the nature and waves, and I'm suddenly afraid of the forest because there's a big demon in it. That's not good, man. I got over it. But
You know, they I heard something recently where someone had said that like the way to structure proper, interesting character dynamic is to put a tension between their wants and their needs.
mhm.
So I guess that works out really well for your guy.
Yeah, it's great character growth. Tell you what.
Yeah. Okay, guys, so we're about an hour and a half into the session. So this is normally where we take a quick break to refresh beverages and relieve ourselves. Why don't we take a quick break and then we'll come back and why don't we do roll some digital polyhedrals and do some role playing?
Gotcha.
Cool.
Let's
So
go.
what, 5-10 minutes or?
Yeah, about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll just be here. I'm already prepared.
Good.
Oh man, you got a cheese string? Now I'm jealous.
Oh yeah, cheese sticks. They're delicious.
Ugh.
I just started a gym membership. Yay, New Year's resolution, right? So
Hooray.
cheese sticks are the snack of choice. And it's one of those stringy ones. So
Ugh, I haven't had a cheese string since I was in like mid-high school.
my wife bought a huge 50-pack from Costco.
Ah, extra jealous. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
granted, I spent like most of last night cooking tacos by hand because I've started to do a lot more of like the make everything myself type cooking. So,
Oh yeah, we had beef stroganoff with some weird smoked paprika, which changed the texture and taste quite a bit. So
might have to write that down. Smoked
we also
paprika.
had a game last night, Pathfinder. We were playing Strange Aeons.
Is this the one you're playing in?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It was pretty fun. We're in a a town near Quaderia, I think.
Mhm.
Looking for a Necronomicon or something. And it's a town that's dual ruled by gnolls and humans.
Yeah.
Like evil aligned or something. My shaman's worships druid. He's true neutral. My wife's playing a blood rager that worships Gorm as well.
Mhm.
I hate this town. Just immediately, it smells bad. They're polluting the waters, and slavery issues, and now I hear there are demons in the Black Circus. I'm like, I'm starting a rebellion. That's what I'm doing. I went to the slums and brought up a Grover Respite so I could start feeding all the masses that are weak and underprivileged. Just my intention is rebellion.
Rebel.
Yep.
No, I've got technically 3 other active games right now. One, which is Mondays, that I'm just starting up. It's going to be Second Darkness, because I've really wanted to run Second Darkness since I made my first Pathfinder Drow character.
Wow, yeah.
Who was a bad Drow Spider-Man, because Erected Wild Soul Vigilante.
Driderfield, nice.
Yeah, so I made this whole backstory arc, and I've wanted to run Second Darkness since. So I got some players together for that. That'll be a fun time. And then the other 2 active games I've got a Starfinder game where I'm a player, and I built a human envoy because nobody ever wants to play a human for some reason.
I like humans.
And
I got
and half elves. And
2 humans in my Starfinder game, I think.
Nice. I am the only human in my Starfinder game. And I am the captain.
Space orc, so I mean, but yeah, we have a few other games going on. Like every week, 2 weeks we alternate our Friday night game. The other one is Hell's Rebels. I'm playing a halfling and vigilante that's the zealot of Milani. That's fun.
I got so surprised that Hell's Rebels had that entire chapter of just extra NPCs for every other campaign.
Yep.
I was just like, oh.
I'm running an Iron Fang adventure on Wednesdays.
Nice.
And every 2 weeks I switch it and I run a different game. With one is a custom campaign I've named the Twilight Reach. It's basically there's a big gas giant going around a star, and it has 13 moons. One's landlocked; they're totally locked to the planet, and that's the undead planet. And you all wake up being ripped from your past lives, and now you're undead and trying to find your way out. And it's crazy.
It just reminds me of where we are in the Starfinder campaign, because we're doing the first AP, and so mild spoiler. I built an Intimidate-based envoy, only to find out that everything in that AP is pretty much immune to mind affecting. So I have no abilities for most of this campaign, and it's hilarious at this point.
What do you mean you're not intimidated?
Let's see here. Is Jamie, are you back?
Yes, I'm back. I was avoiding the spoiler for a moment there.
Okay.
I might play that one day.
Okay, cool.
Don't play Intimidate.
Mind affecting, bad idea.
All right. Okay. So, all right. Well, then let's kick off this campaign. Let me see here. Where are we going? Everyone's characters are entered in Roll20.
I had one quick question. Well, actually, yeah.
Of course.
I think I've got most of the essentials of my equipment down, but the one thing I was going to ask is how, like, okay, so with my bloodline, is this a very visible thing, or
I think when you use it, so there are some afflictions that can that you can come across in the course of exploring Nymeria that are basically like nano diseases. There's a cool one called Fractal Etch that when it affects you, it looks like if you survive it, you end up with scars that look like circuitry all over your your body. Cool. That's kind of how I've been picturing the nanite bloodline is manifesting. Like when you actually use your bloodline, that's when that shit would like flare up and there would be manifestation. Like the way that I picture the magic, to be honest, in most fantasy role-playing games is if you saw the World of Warcraft or the Warcraft movie, the way like the fucking noise and light and shit like that, that's how I picture magic in fantasy role-playing games. It's this, there's an impactful kind of, like Doctor Strange to a degree, but that's a superhero thing, like there's normally bang, whiz, and whatever else. But the thing that was really striking for me about that film was like the mages look insanely powerful, even when they're doing relatively minor things, right? Like, and that's how I see the like. Unless you've taken a feat or some kind of ability or something like that to make your magical power more subtle, it's going to have the casual observer will be like, whoa, something's happening here.
Yeah, my character's magic works on percussion and voice. I took perform percussion instrument and sing. So
Nice.
Whenever he does his stuff, it requires verbal components to it. So.
Love it. Okay. Does that answer your question, Brandon?
Well, so only really when I'm casting magic is that going to be an obvious thing.
Yeah.
Is my
Yeah,
question.
like you're not going to be glowing,
All right.
Yeah.
That's
You're
okay,
not like a cell phone on in a theater all the time.
Yeah, or like I was thinking if I had like the circuitry thing, I was thinking it might look like that. Then I was like, oh, am I gonna have to take a disguise, skill or anything to disguise that? But that's okay.
I think that, like, I think that it probably is. If someone was carefully looking, they would see if they searched you or something like that, they would see the markings of your power.
Sure.
It's not obvious to the thing. That's really just a role play. Nothing in the rules say that you have to be like that. If that's what your manifestation is of your bloodline, in the same way that, like, if you had like an angelic connection or something like that, you may have like a calming presence or some other sort of way for people to see. I'm not going to use that to fuck you over necessarily. Except for the Technic Union. They are absolutely going to fuck you over.
Oh, sure.
In Idaho or whatever that rural background town is. So.
Yeah, that's it. You guys can thank yourself for the first blade path to keep them largely at bay. All right, so our for those who are first time playing with me, I tend to indulge in cinematic techniques sometimes to frame scenes and stuff like that. So if you are not a fan of cutscenes in video games, I really apologize for the next couple of months we're going to be spending together.
As long as it's not like Metal Gear Solid.
No. So our scene opens.
Session 3 of the same cutscene. Let's keep going.
Yeah, exactly.
Would you like to say?
Did I mention that the rest of the hour and a half is going to be spent on this cutscene? Okay, so and everyone starts with 1 hero point as well too.
Nice.
Did anyone have any other questions about hero points?
I'll read them up later.
Yeah. No, I did have a question. Does anybody agree with my first level choice of spells, Cure Light Wounds and Grease, or should I change it for something else?
2 perfectly
Sounds
fine
good.
first level spells.
Okay.
See, I love that I don't have to ask that question because I'm a wizard. I just buy more spells.
Well, I don't have a spell book.
I know.
So
I try to remember, in PF2, do they prep spells or not, or are they able to cast anything from the list?
I don't know about Pathfinder 2.
Yeah.
I think they have to prep. I didn't actually have anybody play Prepared Caster at all.
Okay.
I
I
looked into
think
it
it works
briefly.
closer to 5th edition, though, where they prep certain spells and then just can cast the ones that they
From that
prepped
list,
rather
yeah.
than prepping each slot individually.
Yeah, okay. All right. So it is, to be honest, it's weird to me when there's a restricted list for divine casters. Just because in a lot, maybe not in Pathfinder, but in a lot of other games, the spells aren't quite as impactful, let's say, as what the wizard spells are.
Oh,
Yeah.
There's a little known rule in the back of the core rulebook that you can research spells. So as a DM, you can allow a spellcaster to get access to any spell as long as they research it. So
Right. Let's cross that bridge when we get to it, because I don't want.
that'd be a good idea for those magic spells for technology we need to find, or.
Oh, well, those things will be restricted anyway. Like that is no amount of hitting the books will let you know, like, I can, read as much as I want in the library, but it's not going to, teach me, I don't know, what would be a restricted knowledge. It's not going to teach me the proprietary coding language that's used, say, by Apple.
Like there's one spell that I thought is ridiculously not on the bard list, which is Enlarge Person. I'd like to get that spell, so maybe research it.
Okay. I'm actually fine with just having that on the list if that's what you. Yeah, like that's not.
Well, I still, feel like I should expend the gold to research it just because.
You won't. I'm both a kind and cruel DM in alternating ways.
Yeah.
It's like that parent who gets home who drinks. So you're just like, I don't know. Is he angry today?
But you do have to be careful about cross contaminating too much, because we don't want to tear down all the barriers between the various classes.
That's true.
But I mean, like, he's not asking for magic missile or
Right.
fireball or something like that. A large
Right,
person.
because one of my favorite archetypes for Bard is Arrow Song Minstrel, which combines a lot of magical aspects where they can draw from wizard spell lists, specifically evocation. They pick a few starting out, such as magic missile and whatnot.
So that's a good opportunity to talk about, or sort of reiterate again. So when I talked to, what I mentioned in the video I sent to all the players in the camp, for those listening at home, is that like my primary focus is whatever's happening at the table. If so long as someone gaining access to one thing is not going to steal the thematic spotlight from someone else, is not going to take away their specialness about their character, I'm not really concerned about a theoretical character that doesn't exist in the game, right? So like if and then that's where my focus is that that doesn't mean that every time I run Pathfinder I'm necessarily going to do that. It just means for the purpose of this game with these heroes, I'm not super fussed about, again, like if it was something that was a clear magic user thing or wizard thing, like, fireball or, whatever, then that's clearly stealing from someone else's wheelhouse. But
understood.
Yeah. So
I was gonna say, you would trust a blind wizard to cast fireball?
So I had
50% miss chance. Now I'm feeling lucky today.
That's gonna be great.
Isn't fire protection?
Is evocation one of your banned spells too?
No, conjuration, which is the ability to summon things, and transmutation, which is the ability to change things, because they seem like someone who can't see can't really use.
Yeah,
he can still use them. He just has to use 2 spell slots. So
yeah, I can still learn and use them. It's just going to be a big pain in the butt.
Okay. All right. So our scene opens, guys, in a was kind of like a long shot of this rubble strewn, and basically it looks like an enormous junkyard in which someone has built a community. And what we can hear is this sound of a crowd. There's a massive, imagine like an auditorium or outdoor stadium of crowds. Everyone's chanting. And as we get in closer, we can see that there is this sort of like half circle auditorium, and it's basically like, imagine a post-apocalyptic auditorium that like the Colosseum, but built from the detritus of a high-tech society. So there's bits of metal and stuff like that around. The floor of the auditorium has bent, and rusted frames in it. It has the walls themselves seem to be made of patchwork of different materials. Some like corrugated metal, some stone, some of some other kind of substance that you cannot tell what it might be made from. And the walls themselves are surrounding this circular kind of area. And in this area, there are a group of 4 different, they're probably like orc or half orc. Whatever they are, they're definitely inhuman and savage. And they're all wielding a variety of basically crudely made. You can sort of picture the classic orc weapons, the great axe, the falchion, the halberd. But these things are made by way of scrap. So it's, a battle axe where it's a bunch of like rusted and punctured metal that makes up the edge of it. And these things are all surrounding this creature that looks like an enormous reptile, but from which these jagged black spines that look like mineral formations, like crystal, that sort of jut out of the back of this thing. And from this thing's eyes is streaming this violet energy. And the 4 orcs are the survivors of a group of what looks like about 12, because there are the broken and battered remains of 8 other orcs lying in the arena. This thing kind of dances around, and one of the orcs goes in and manages to get a hit in on this thing's knee, and the whole crowd erupts in celebration. The camera sort of follows along and tracks the crowd, and we get to the sort of like the Emperor's Box, or like the place that's looking down on this. But instead of being made of a like a primitive material, it honestly looks like the railing on it looks like the kind of like safety railing you would see in a warehouse. It's corroded, the paint has all chipped off, and on this structure there is standing a really tall, black-skinned half-orc. His head is completely bald, his ears are pointed, and he stares down at this, gripping the edge of the railing with one hand that is exposed, that's just bare blackened skin, and another hand that has a vicious spiked gauntlet on it. This guy also has a tabard on that has on the front a maroon colored sigil that seems to have been like pressed on there, like as if they were using like a stamp print or something like that. A shitty, what do you call it? Screen, what is it? Whatever screen to make your t-shirts. And the symbol is a stylized claw. It looks like a mechanical thing, not like something from a crab or something like that. It looks like a vice grip. As he's talking, we see someone sort of skittering through the crowd that's collected around this. And again, another cheer erupts from the crowd. And we see this, it's a little ratling. It looks like about 3 feet tall, a combination of humanoid rat. It comes up and it's wearing a tabard as well with a similar insignia on the shoulder. This thing walks up and kind of, clears its throat, and the big half-orc looks down, and the ratling hands something up to him. Takes it, he opens it up, it's a scroll. He hands it back to the rat folk, and then the rat folk just kind of turns and scampers off. He seems thrilled to be out of the presence of this half-orc. Half-orc turns and walks inside, and we follow him in, and the lights get darker as we go inside. And this does not seem to be a medieval structure. As we walk in, we can hear his metal shod boots clank, clank, clank along some kind of metal walkway. It's got that rattling, kind of not secured properly thing that you get with like the not corrugated, but the metal flooring that is made up of like what is it, like cross beams or whatever. You know what I mean? Like the sort of holes and whatever that make up like gangplanks. So he's walking along and saying, clank, 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 goes back in. He passes 2 other figures, one human, one probably orc or half orc as well. Both of them big and equally burly, both of them scarred, and both of them with the same like rough, crude approximation of the sigil burned into the top of their forehead. This door then opens up like Star Trek style, and this thing walks in, seals behind him. What we see now is a long and empty cavern that stretches in kind of like a cross shaped, the longest bit being the walkway leading in. As this guy enters here, he kneels down and crosses his chest with the gauntleted hand. As he sits there, we suddenly see lights come on that we can see are cracked and stained monitors. And what the light is at first is just like, a TV tuned between channels. This figure then gets up and walks along. And as he walks along, the TVs then or the monitors flash into focus, and we see burning flames displayed on them. This thing walks forward, poof, clank, 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 poof, poof, poof. The monitors keep following him. And then we get to the juncture of the cross. And in the middle, we can see that there is this enormous circular kind of like platform. It only stands about maybe a half foot or maybe 2 feet, or half foot to a foot tall, with a couple kind of like teeth around the edge as if it would contain something. And he once again stops, kneels down, and once the sequence of all of these monitors turning into flames completes, we see that this dais flares with light. It's a greenish light that then there's little particles that come out of it and form into some kind of standing figure whose bottom half is completely hidden in diffused particles. And we hear this booming voice echo throughout this chamber. Speak! And the voice sounds like it's being put through a malfunctioning cab speaker. That kind of like quality to it, but it's deep. And if you picture, for those who may be old enough or may have gone in afterwards, the voice of Unicron from the original Transformers film.
Orson Welles, yes.
Orson Welles, exactly. It's this speak voice that echoes throughout. And you can see, as fearsome as this black-skinned half-orc is, he actually trembles. And you can't tell if it's fear or ecstasy or a combination of the two. And what the half-orc says in this half-orc is actually played in the film version by Vincent D'Onofrio. So the Kingpin. He says, the plan is prepared. The pieces are in place. We are ready, Master. And the voice, the form seems to just be drifting in place, held aloft by those particles. And the voice says, in response, and of my sister. And we see this black-skinned orc kind of swallow hard. And he, without looking up, the whole time this half-orc is kneeling prostrate before this figure. His hand, gauntleted hand, still in place. We continue to try to find information, Master, and he's interrupted by the sound of like a screen that is suddenly digitized, like and all of the monitors are now arcing electricity from each side. And he says, but we have hopes. We think to the west, to the town, the Abandoners. And the lightning kind of dies down. You will find her. And the half-orc says, yes. Yes, Master. And the last thing that he says, the glowing figure, is Cassandali. And then once again, we are in darkness. The monitors all go out. And there's only this very light glow from this dais before him. And what we can see is that the half-orc is now drenched in sweat and panting. And then once he finally steels himself, he stands up, turns, and walks towards the door, leaving us in darkness. And the door opens, and we can again hear from the crowd outside. And then we are in darkness once again. Our scene cuts to darkness, and we can hear the sound of like something rattling around. Isaac, does Prophet have any levels? I should have checked this before. Does Prophet have any levels in engineering?
Yes, actually.
Great. Okay. So we're in darkness, and we can see little flashes of light, and we can hear the sound of like metal rattling on metal. And what we actually then can kind of see when the camera shifts is this is Connor Bain. This is a middle-aged, maybe like mid-40s, maybe a little later, human male, white, played in the film version of our campaign by Hugo Weaving. And he is on top of this rickety old wooden ladder next to this enormous mechanical construct. Like basically, if you pictured, like, imagine if a windmill was built in kind of a like steampunk, atomic age kind of sci-fi style. So like equal parts like rockets and ray guns and windmill and steampunky. That's the Crowfoot Palace. And he is working on something with this this kind of like lever. And at the base of the ladder, with one hand idly steadying it, and another hand kind of off thinking, we see Prophet. And Isaac, why don't you give us a quick description of what Prophet looks like?
Prophet is blonde, slight. She persistently wears a blindfold, and even around its edges, you can see scarring from a prior trauma, where her eyes had been removed for her indiscretions against individuals, so to speak.
Okay.
She tends to wear just simply in a robe, little more else than that. There's not a lot of point for her to see dressing up, and she frequently doesn't wear shoes so that she can feel the earth underneath her feet, because it helps give her a better sense of what's around her.
Okay. So what we can see as well is the Crowfoot Palace is set next to this enormous, not huge. How big is it here? Let's see. It's about 200 feet across at the widest. So it's just a fairly large pond, and I just gotta double check here. I actually can't remember the name of the pond. 1 second here. Can't remember what it's called, Crowfoot Pond. But once I look it up, I won't need to do it again. So there's this, and the water itself, Weeping Pond, that's what it's called. So it's next to the Weeping Pond, and the Weeping Pond kind of like makes its way down from the top here where it comes out, and then it flows down towards where the Crowfoot Palace is, and then the Crowfoot Palace is what services the water to make it potable for the town. However, it is currently malfunctioning, and Connor is trying to figure out what the hell has actually gone wrong with this. What we can see behind the Crowfoot Palace is this massive black jutting edifice of stone that is the Black Hill. And right at the top of the Black Hill, even in this daytime sky, this beautiful blue sky, there's this violet beam of energy that shoots straight up and seems to disappear beyond the edge of vision. And we finally hear kind of like, there it is. Right. Now, Prophet, or my dear.
Yes. Sorry, it was like I was seeing something for a moment.
And he, he makes his way down a little bit down the ladder, and then he hands you a piece of, it kind of looks like, like an alternator or in a car. So it's about yay big. It's a piece of kind of undefinable high technology or unrecognizable high technology. Would you take a look at this?
I turn my face to him and like arc my eyebrows because he used the term "look," and it's one of those moments.
Yeah,
but
what you can see in like if you are using your spirit sight,
my sense of touch, I'm like examining it, running my thumb.
For him, I mean, is that like if you were reading his, you may see like there's a flush of positive or warming energy in his aura. Like it's clear that he's playing with you.
Yeah.
So he hands it to you, knowing that you can, with your hands, study us and try and diagnose. You guys have worked with technology for a number of years now, in addition to your arcane training. And this is a typical sort of like, he likely knows what's wrong with this, and he just wants you to take a look.
All right. So I presume you want me to make an engineering check then?
I would like you to make an engineering check, please. Yeah.
All right. Let me
first dice roll of the game.
Hooray! It's a me.
Well,
that
nice.
appears to be an 18 because I'm a smarty pants.
Not bad. So you're feeling this thing over, and this is one of the. It's a cycler, so it's something that it's not a crucial component. Like the Crowfoot Palace is still functioning, but it is one of the things that makes it overtaxes other systems without it. And the palace itself is sort of put together with all sorts of scavenge technology and things that that Connor has managed to kludge together. And he says, "Is it reparable?" And you're like, "This thing is kaput." You can tell from the what's what you can feel in it, that this is just there's a burned out component that's just not going to be able to be fixed.
Yeah, from the heat this thing's given off, it feels like maybe something inside cracked just from heat stress. I don't think we're going to be able to fix this.
All right. I need to check the filters for this. Can you head down? I think Tret's in town. Go talk to him and see if you can, if he can suggest a replacement. And if he doesn't have one, go to the junkyard and see if you can get something there.
All right, should I take this one with me? So that
I've got no further use for it, so it'll end up in the junkyard anyway.
Okay. All right.
Say hi to Ragnar.
I will.
And,
by that, he probably knows that I'm going to forget.
Okay.
Or just conveniently forget because I'm not the best with social situations.
Sure. Okay, so now where you normally find Tret is, I believe, in that open courtyard at the bottom. A second here, let me double check. So you guys are currently right here, working along the edge closer to the water. But there is the kind of the main thoroughfare that leads up to the peak of the Black Hill where all the smithing takes place. You can head your way down that into town. And Sanville Tret is kind of like a local junk merchant. Yeah, he seems to travel throughout Nymeria, but he often has interesting things for sale, and he seems eager to purchase Numerian tech at times. He can also be kind of helpful. He also seems to be one of the only people in town who is remorselessly flirting with you, in spite of your terrible. Yeah, I mean, he is a good salesman, so there is that.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Social gatherings, okay.
He's just interested in the weird things that the tail can do.
Yeah. Okay, so Market Square is. Oh, it's right over here. Okay, so it's actually on the other side of the Weeping Pond, right here.
All right.
Okay, so you make your way through town, and you make your way down into the town square. This is actually the town hall. And as you're sort of making your way down this area here, you suddenly find yourself, you're under attack.
Well, I do see it coming. I act in a surprise round.
Yes. Okay. So what is happening is someone is tossing a stone at you.
So stuff I'm used to.
This is something you're used to. Yeah. So do you just let it happen? What has happened in the past is some of the little shitbag kids who have, shitty parents, they tend to harass you when no one is there to stop them.
Well, let's see. What did I prepare for the day? I don't imagine prestidigitation was one of it, because I could be a jerk. Spells prepared for today. Daze, detect magic, or flare. How cruel would it be to flare them? Just like that black flash of light dazzle them and freak them out?
Do it.
It's up to you.
Flare is a relatively harmless spell, so because dazing them's going to or daze is a much more offensive spell. So yeah, I'll just cast flare fairly close to me so that it wouldn't actually affect them, because you've got to choose. It's a 20-foot radius spread. Or no, sorry, it's got no spread. It's just a burst of light instantaneous on one target. Yeah. But I'm going to choose a target of just basically 10 feet in front of me, so it's more to scare than it is to anything else.
Okay.
They know I can do something weird.
Now you don't have your, just as a warning, you don't have your spirit sense up right now, so you're not sure who's in front of you, right?
I presumably generally cast it because there's no penalty to doing so, but if you prefer, I don't have it.
Yeah, the reason is because having a character who's blind but not blind is there needs to be some simulation recognition of the inability to see. Otherwise, it's just like Daredevil, but with a very specific life sense thing. Okay.
Yeah. I also suffer no penalties for being blind either, just because of that trait I have. So it's I can detect where they are.
I mean, there's a difference between what I wanted to know is how far this. So what I'm reading here is that you got 30-foot. It's a stationary spell. It doesn't maintain. Like you cast it on an area, right?
Yeah. No,
So-
it's the range is 30 feet of a cone, and it's a self-only spell. So it's
Oh,
basically
okay, so it's
whichever direction my head is pointing, 30 feet within that, I can detect life signs.
Okay.
And it's specifically like
Right.
if
Okay.
they're
So yeah.
further left.
So then 30 feet. So you know what's 30 feet in front of you. That's what I want to know. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, then there's you would know that there's not anyone in front of you. Yeah. So you go ahead and do that. I don't think this is the first time you've done that.
Probably not.
So then you don't take any damage or anything like that, but it's just like a painful kind of, and you hear the laughter of about maybe 4 kids, and they're young. Like this is like 7 to 9 year olds, and they start it's kind of like laughing to each other, and they say, "Demon doll, demon doll, demon doll, demon doll." When another one hits you in the back, and these are small stones, like nothing that will hurt you. You flash, and they kind of laugh. Arlen, near where this is sort of near this intersection here, where this is all happening, and I think you know Prophet because of your connection with Connor as well too, and you're sort of walking back. I'm not sure what you were doing before, but you're walking along and you're seeing this happen, and I think you've seen this happen before. What you know is that these little shits are the children of Yomidian devotees, and this is not the first time that there are people in town who genuinely think that Prophet is a threat and is shouldn't be allowed to stay and whatnot. They're the vast minority, but it's these shitty people with these shitty kids that kind of make her life difficult sometimes. So you can see this happening. Prophet, you did the flare thing. It didn't seem to do anything. Are you just going to ignore the kids or what?
If I had eyes, they would be rolled at this point because my character's 28 and has been through this even before she came to Torch. It's not an unusual feeling, especially as a tiefling. So there's nothing better to do than just get on with her day and not give them the satisfaction that they're bothering her.
Okay. So she's continues making her way along. Vortimer, that's what you see is these kids are still being little shits, and they're starting to follow her. And I think this is not the first time you have heard about this. Maybe it's the first time you've seen this actually happening, though. What do you want to do?
I think I'm going to shout at them. I'm going to shout, "Stop this!"
Okay.
At the children, and then I look pretty intimidating. I'm going to pull back my hood, and you see Vortimer is kind of tall and lanky and completely hairless overall, and he's got the android designs that look kind of like tattoos running from his forehead back down over his head, and he starts walking with a purpose towards the children.
Okay. The kids look over. Are you trained in Intimidate?
I don't think I'm trained.
That's fine. I'm going to give you. Go ahead and make.
Well, Intimidate is a class skill, but I'm not trained in it.
Not trained in it. Okay. I'm not going to make you.
It can also be used untrained. It's just generally not a wise idea.
Yeah. So you're stalking over towards these little shits, and they kind of look up, and they all look at each other, and they turn and kind of run off, and they're still kind of calling after them. Demon doll, demon doll. And then they sort of disappear off further, in towards the Crowfoot Palace. You hear a voice, Prophet, that you recognize, and that's of course Vortimer, an android that seems to be You've seen him around the Foundry Tavern, and not Center. I think you guys know each other. You guys are probably. Sounds like you don't really have friends per se, but this is someone who doesn't aggressively attack you, at least.
Yeah. So because I do have pride for a blind person, I'm I could have handled it.
Okay. Is that what you say?
Yeah, I could have handled it.
Okay.
That's
even
right.
He obviously watched me not do it because of the flare. Things could have done.
I'll say, if I'm not here next time, then you can handle it.
Right. So being the 6 charisma awkwardness that I am, I'm just gonna turn my head around, pretending like I'm looking at something, like I might have something to do. It's I need to go see Tret. I'll talk to you another time.
That's actually where you're headed too, Vortimer.
Is it?
Yeah.
Why don't I come along?
What a great idea. So
What
you
a
guys
great
continue
idea.
on.
The prophet,
I'm
like,
guessing in
thinks a little
awkward
bit like,
silence. I'm guessing you guys continue along in awkward silence because we've
Well,
got
I think it would be awkward for other people around them, but I assume I don't know how Prophet feels, but Vortimer is totally comfortable with what he sees as a companionable silence that other people may not consider to be so companionable, but he considers it. This is a mark of a burgeoning friendship almost, that we're willing to just walk together quietly.
Nice. So the quiet of your passage along through town to get to the market, it is probably about like 10, 11 o'clock in the day. So the market is fairly busy, at this point. You're making your way through, and you can see about 30 feet. So you're trying to keep yourself aware for Tret, and you definitely hear his voice before you actually see him, because Tret is a bit of a chatty Cathy. And I'll just show you what Sample Tret looks like, guys. And I'll actually load these as handouts between now and the next session. But right in the center of the screen there, that is what he looks like, with a handful of silver discs there. And in the film version of our campaign, Tret is played by Paul Rudd. Okay. So you can hear him chatting away to someone, and then he looks over and he's like, "Oh, just hold on a second. This, just keep a looking at that." Well, hello there. And
Hey,
you can hear the voices in your direction, Prophet.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I turn my head towards him. Just it's an autonomic reflex when you hear someone talking to you, even if you can't see them, you do turn towards them. Mm-hmm. So that you can, and I'm terrible at bluff on this character, so
that's awesome.
She doesn't hide her body language very well. She's just like, "Oh, someone's paying attention to me."
Sure.
So I was like, "Afternoon, Tret," or almost afternoon. I don't know. Where's the sun?
Oh, well, it's always a good afternoon when I get to see your lovely face there, BP. And Vortimer, what have you brought back for me?
What have I brought back?
What are you guys together for? What are you together for?
I'm just here because Connor needs a new one of these, and I'll hold up the part that was prior given to me.
All right.
Vort, on the other hand, he decided to follow me here.
Vort,
I think I might show off. I have, say, like a shoulder blade that I've been working on, that I've been using my dagger to carve on, and it's got nothing kind of specific yet, but sort of the beginnings of intricate designs around it that I'll pull out of my pack and say, "Well, look at this."
Okay. So he says, "Oh, that's like, it's clear he's humoring."
Yeah.
Your character is in. Oh, that's
yeah. Vortimer he's too interested in it to notice that nobody else is as interested in it as he is.
So what Tret does, I'm just trying to see what. So he takes a look at this. He's like, "All right. Well, I mean, if he wants it fixed, my advice is," and he just drops it at the table and clank, it hits the ground. "It's not going to be working again. What does he want?"
Likely a replacement to do with the water filters, so it's kind of important.
All right. Well, I don't have anything with me that'll do that, but if he wants, if you can find it in the Junkyard, and he gives you a description of sort of like a workaround possibility. He's like, that might do what you're trying to do if you can get the power to flow back to it. But yeah, I mean, otherwise, he picks it up and blank, it hits the ground, or hits his little display stand or whatever. Were you looking to sell this then? He's gesturing with the things. Oh, I'm sorry. You're looking to get rid of this then too, BP?
If it'll get us a couple of bucks towards the replacement, never hurts.
All right. Then Vortimer, he looks at you. He picks up the thing that you've got, the thing you scrimshandered, and he hands you the junk, and he hands the little carving to you, BP.
Oh. Great.
Just for you.
The enthusiasm on my character's face.
Now, Vort, BP, you, if you're going to get something from the junkyard, you're going to need some help carrying that. It's not going to be the workaround is going to be something substantial. What he's described is like basically like instead of being able to just put an equal size part, you're gonna have to get something that's about 6 times the size to sort of. Because if it was smaller, it likely wouldn't have ended up in the junkyard. So
great.
Yeah. Looking through garbage.
For something big that I can't carry and that I can't see to find.
Well, I'm sure this strapping young lad, and he hits the hits your Vortimer's chest, and he's like, "Oh, you've been." I'm sure he could help you with something. You've got nothing better to do, right?
No, not today.
And in the prophet's mind, her day just got twice as long. Like, great.
He says, "Now, Vort, go and help her out. But did you get back to those the hills that I mentioned? I heard that there was something around that region, the northwest."
The Northwest. It's been not too long of a journey, but interesting. Do you want me to roll geography or something?
No, because I want to roll with what you did. So your character, I think, was intending to go there, but you found something else that was more interesting and did that, and then kind of came back. And so he looks and he's like, "You didn't go, did you?"
I'll have another opportunity soon.
If you want to earn more, and he gestures at the like hunk of junk that you've got in your hand now, more than you might want to check that out, though. Though I appreciate the effort. Clearly, your gambling skills are much improving. If we're not going if you don't have anything to do tonight, then we're going to have to go to the Silver Disc Hall. You do have money still, right? You go earn some money, then we'll play a game.
Excellent.
Now, and he says, "All right, then, good. Come back when you got something worth for me to look at." And he kind of like does the pistols, thing, and then he goes back to talking to whoever it was he was dealing with initially. What are you guys going to do? Vort,
well, I guess we got to go to the junkyard.
Yeah, and Vort, you have a basically a improvised weapon right now.
Okay. I mean, if we're going to the junkyard anyway, I guess I'll carry it with me there.
Okay. So as you guys leave the market, getting to the junkyard is going to take you maybe about 15 minutes of walking. It is at the the ass end of town. But as you get closer to the junkyard, you hear a familiar sound. It sounds like you would think that it might sound like a hammer hitting some kind of metal. That may be the best approximation. But there's some kind of explosion that is going off on a semi-regular basis. And as you walk into the junkyard, you can see that standing there is this half-orc with a smoking gun. And I'm not using up any of the ammunition we used for narrative scene dressing. Gunther does not count towards your actual ammo.
Okay.
So,
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Since we're adding flourishes, can my starting pistol be a revolver?
Yeah, I mean, it won't have any. Basically, the mechanical effect will be that it only fires the way like a normal pistol does, because like maybe the mechanism doesn't work properly. But otherwise, it could be a revolver.
Then perhaps upgrade it later.
Yeah, like, and then if you like the money that you would spend to purchase a revolver, we could just say that that's you fixing the gun you found.
Sounds.
Does that work?
Works for me.
Cool. So what does it look like, or what does he look like as we come into the scene here?
He is. You see Gunther seated in a lotus position. He has a gun, a book open in front of him. He seems to be peering into it, and he has his gun in his hands. And he's reading passages in the book and then looking back at the gun and then aiming at a target set across the junkyard. Looks like a row of clay containers with Kelid hieroglyphics on the side.
Okay.
He fires one, and then he notices in his periphery as Prophet and Vortimer approach. And without turning, he addresses them. Hey, Prophet. It's me, over here, Gunther.
Yeah, no, Gunther, and I don't need tinnitus to add to the fact that I can't see.
Sorry, I was just getting in my practice and being a good Alkin Star Shield Marshal. What can I do for you today? Greetings, Vortimer.
As you walk into, how does Prophet feel about dogs?
I guess it really depends on the dog. If it's one of those dogs that jumps on her, she probably freaks out because she like very quickly gets that glimpse of it in her vision. She may have heard it coming, and then it just tackles her from a direction, and she just like freaks out.
Yeah, so that's absolutely what you hear, and you've been here before. Let's see here, Gunther. I'll let you. So there is a big, like, kind of, mangy, like mastiff type dog that inhabits the junkyard. It's really friendly towards people and stuff like that. It's really here for like, pests and stuff like that would make their way into the junkyard. It's not to like keep people away. So this,
don't
what's
worry
the name?
about that. That's just mange.
Mange.
Make sure he doesn't lick you in the face. That's
so you
all.
can hear off at the edge of your vision, your soul vision, Prophet. And as you look over, this thing comes running in and jumps up on you. It's really happy to see you, Vortimer. I think it keeps its distance from you, though.
I think I wish that it didn't.
Okay, I love it. Okay, so you see this thing come in, and it's not that it's hostile towards you. It's just that you're not warm the way that like some people can be, and for whatever reason, this thing does actually like Prophet. So it jumps up and kind of like oh. And at that, we see three other figures kind of walk into the scene. Now, this is sort of like, imagine like the entrance to a junkyard. Like there's a little shack that's set up inside this bit of fencing. There's piles of detritus and old crap and scrap metal and stuff like that that just litter this entire yard here, and it sprawls out for quite some distance too. And the three other figures are Kairos, Algar, and Ragnar. So we can see that Ragnar is, he is this big, fairly, he's not overweight, but he's definitely, well past his prime. He probably weighs about maybe like 260, and he is still fairly tall, half orc. His hair is all thinned down, and he's got, scarring around one of his eyes. He's not missing an eye, but there's scarring around it. And he says, all right, I need you to get back. We need to move all that stuff over. Oh, what's this?
Hey, Ragnar. I remembered to say hi this time.
Hello, Prophet. Mange, leave her alone. And the two other figures that are with him are Kairos and Algar. Kairos, what do we see when we look at him?
Well, the first thing you notice is his arched right eyebrow as he surveys the mangy dog. And he says, well, that's disgusting.
This is effectively like your dog. This is the junkyard's dog.
Yeah, he shouldn't be licking the Prophet like that. It's you don't know where his mouth has been.
Okay.
But otherwise, he's a little bit above average build, and is an average build, besides being a blacksmith apprentice for a bit. He's got long chin-length hair, full beard, down, just enough to make it look manly, I suppose. He's got leather armor, carries a spear with him. It's basically a source of pride for him. It's a gift from Ragnar from his past. Otherwise, he's got like steel gray eye that you can see, and it doesn't carry a lot of emotion, but until he smiles and it like lights up his whole face. You can tell he has some affection for the dog, but he's like keep it a half spear length away from him.
Yeah. So it's the kind of like, oh, you shouldn't jump up when he's like, I'm completely fine. I'll make no steps to stop this dog from jumping up on people in future.
No, the prophet needs to socialize some more.
Okay. And what about Algar? What does Algar look like?
Algar is a he's a youngish guy in his late teens, and he's as minimally dressed as possible given the climate of this period. If it's dry, I assume he's not. It's not raining or anything.
That time of year. It's actually a good question. Fucking Bush League DM. Jeez.
Yes.
So it is. It's actually like about midsummer. So it's probably like the heat of the height of the heat of the summer. So yeah.
Okay, so he's as minimally dressed as possible, basically, and he's and I assume he's got his if he's been moving stuff, he's probably got his pack animal, his bison Shaggy with him.
Shaggy, I love
Shaggy.
it. Voiced by Matt Lillard in the cartoon.
Yeah, exactly. So since somebody can speak with animals, then we could possibly do. We'll definitely have to do it that way.
Okay.
All right, and then he's got and I would say he's he keeps most of his. He's not carrying a lot because he keeps most of his gear on his animal. With the dog, when he sees that he nods in acknowledgement to his companions who we've all met before, so know each other. So, and I think he's trying to like sneak a little piece of meat to the dog when nobody's looking.
Okay.
Because he just
Yeah, so Mange comes like it leaves at Ragnar's order. The dog kind of hops down and runs over towards you guys, circles around you guys to the side, and then kind of comes up and kind of nuzzles at your hand, and you pass a little scrap of meat. You guys, you're probably just coming from a meal, I guess.
Yeah.
So
I raise my drum outside of the reach of the dog because it has leather on it, and I eyeball him.
All right, so that's what you guys see as Gunther. Are you getting up, or are you still kind of just talking to people while you're?
No, well, he was standing up when they approached. Yeah, so
sure.
He stood up and greeted his friends.
So you guys can notice that Prophet, isn't carrying anything, and Vortimer seems to have a chunk of some kind of machinery in his hand. What does everyone do?
So Gunther would quickly stow his gun and his book because he wants to get back to actually doing his work like he's supposed to, and grabs a piece of junk off of a nearby pile. Just moving this around like you said, Ragnar.
Yeah, there's this moment of like where you and Gunther, you and Ragnar kind of make eye contact, and he gives this look of like he knows he could hear the fucking gun. He knows you're not doing work, but he's not going to say anything.
Right.
Okay.
I'm going to walk over there and help Gunther out with moving some stuff and doing what Ragnar said.
Okay.
Like,
yeah, I am too.
Pushing like some, if I find anything like I don't want to touch, I'd move it aside with one of my clubs or something, and then because I don't want to touch it.
Okay.
I think Vortimer, as the new guys approach, and sort of in general to everyone, makes what is in his mind something like a salute to say hi, but it looks more like he just sort of touches his forehead. And anybody who knows him knows that this is something that he's trying to communicate. Hello, and I respect you.
Prophet gets down to business. She's like wiping dog gross off of her on like her sleeve because she just really,
I whip out a handkerchief and like toss it to her.
Okay.
She can't see the handkerchief.
Yeah, so it falls to the ground.
I forgot.
It is neither alive nor does it make sound, so it just like flies by, and she's just like doesn't even acknowledge it exists.
My dex is 18.
Yeah. So maybe Vortimer can kind of like snap out and grab the thing before it falls.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And maybe I'll not so much hand it as just like press it against Prophet's shoulder so that she can feel that there's something there.
Okay. Well, I'll check, recognize what it is, and I'm like, oh, thank you.
Okay.
But yes, as I'm doing that, I was like, but yeah, no, Ragnar, we need a new piece. I think Koner called it a cycler. It's supposed to take stress off of the water filtration systems. We're looking for one about 6 times as big as this one, if we can manage it.
6 times the size of this. All right, let's see. He grabs
I'm
the thing
to
and
lift something, aren't I?
yeah, that's right, boy. Hope you've been stretching that back. You got to work off that meal. And he looks at the thing. Well, I don't know. Do you know? Look, and he kind of is looking around. Do Gunther or Algar or Kyrus have any points or any ranks in engineering?
I do.
I can
Not
make it.
yet.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, thanks. So he takes this thing and he's like, I don't know about this stuff. Here, Algar. And he tosses it to you. You grab the thing.
Okay. Do a check.
Well, this is, again, I think probably, if you got ranks in it, you know what she's asking about.
Okay.
And you're like, all right, well, maybe, do you think there might be something in maybe row 6 or whatever? Because you guys are the part of the, this is sort of like an auto records. Like, I'm picturing it being like an auto records type thing where you've got a mental inventory of all the different kind of parts and gewgaws and stuff that are in the different wrecks that you guys have recovered.
Can we untrained take 10 just to know where it is because we're familiar with it? Something
Absolutely,
that we
yeah.
walk by every day.
Yeah, no. My plan was not to be. The first dungeon you encounter is the scrapyard. Your greatest enemy is tedium.
Oh yeah,
My greatest enemy is not being able to see many sharp objects.
Yeah.
I saw that doohickey. Yeah, over this way. Come on.
Tret's not wrong that it probably will take a couple of you guys to move this thing. It is quite heavy. So you make your way over, and Mange is, of course, following behind you guys. Ragnar says, all right, well, you got this, and turns and heads off to do whatever he's was planning on doing.
I heavily look at Algar. I'm like, well, it's just me and you then. The other strong guy left.
Okay, he sort of shakes his. You can't see it, but you can hear Ragnar shaking his head of boy, So, all right. So the lot of you guys head over. Vortimer, what are you doing with your thing? Are you just tossing it in a heap, or are you?
I think setting it in a place. Not gonna just toss it, but I'm not gonna keep it.
Okay. So you place it, and you guys make your way through the through the yard. Again, it's while it sprawls out, there really isn't a lot of space. You guys have really, if you think of navigating around an IKEA, where there's major open thoroughfares, but then there's these narrow kind of alleys or whatnot, and then twisted and whatnot. So it sort of has.
There's some leaking Numerian fluid over here. Watch your head.
Yeah, and unerringly, Prophet sort of walks around it without making any indication of looking down. And you guys do find the thing. I mean, it takes you about maybe 10, 15 minutes. You find the thing. It's going to take a little bit of rearranging to get it out, but yeah. That Connor has requested this stuff before when it's for the palace. You know that you are going to bill the town for it, and the town council will pay back for whatever the cost is. So you don't need to worry about doing that. But yeah, Prophet, what is your strength?
8.
Yeah, so there's no way she's lifting this thing. It's going to take at least 3 of you guys to sort of manage this thing.
I've got a 16.
Who's got 15?
16.
16,
Yeah.
Nice.
Come on, fellas. Let's put our backs into it.
I've got 16.
Okay. So between the 3 of you guys, you get it, and you've sort of just got this thing up, and you're getting ready to move when you hear from elsewhere in the scrapyard this smash, something really fucking heavy falling. And that's always a bad thing in the scrapyard because you guys are careful not to make a wacky shacky, out of the scrapyard. You need to make sure it's safe to navigate around. And you hear the shout of Ragnar. Ah! 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 And he's cursing out actually in Orcish. Does anyone speak Orcish?
I do. I learned the language from him.
I think I also do, because I had a million starting languages. Yes, I do.
Okay, so you guys can make out. He's screaming out a bunch of curses in Orcish, and it's really rare for him to speak Orcish.
Sound good.
Do I sense urgency?
In his tone, absolutely.
I look at Algar. I'm like, drop on 2, 1, and then we run. Well, I run at least.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I stop a little bit way through the run because I know he's probably going to get there first, and I don't. No sense getting exhausted.
I whip out a club and start running.
Okay.
Yeah, Gunther will follow behind. Post haste.
So you guys are, I think it sounds like Kairos would probably be the first one to get there. Prophet and Vortimer, are you guys following? Or are you guys
Prophet's like, I can't carry this back on my own.
We'll come back for it.
And
right back, Prophet.
begrudgingly goes along with them because she acknowledges she needs them and thus shouldn't lose track of them and make sure that she doesn't lose them over the course of this, whatever's going on.
Okay.
Am I near Prophet?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, I kind of grab Prophet and guide her then.
Okay.
I think
What about
Vortimer is
Vortimer?
at kind of just a medium jog, staying with the pack, but he's not trying to get to either end.
Okay. So, Kairos, you're the first one that kind of winds this corner of where you can hear all the noise coming from. Actually, you and Mange are probably there, because I think a dog has like a 40-foot move, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, dogs
Yeah,
are
so
awesome.
Mange is there and kind of barking, and then kind of looking back and forth between Ragnar. What you see is that Ragnar is on the ground, and somehow some giant slab, something that's like a bunch of twisted metal that's about the size of like a small hatchback, that has fallen onto Ragnar's legs, completely pinning him to the ground, and he's screaming out in pain.
I've run over and I like dig deep and try and lift it
Okay.
immediately.
All right. So the rest of you kind of come around the corner in turn. Probably Algar and Gunther next. You see the same thing. Then Vortimer and Prophet. You've been sort of dragged along by Algar, so I guess you're there around the same time too.
Yeah, and like after he does that, I like kind of brush myself off because especially as a blind individual, being dragged around like that is really like off-settling because it's a lack of control of where she's going, and she doesn't have the same sensory input as everyone else.
Well, I imagine even like just
Algar doesn't quite get that.
no, and in terms of like your spirit sight too, if like you would probably just by instinct be looking down at where someone's grabbing you, which means you're not even seeing what little bit of stuff you could be seeing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like something's grabbed me. Who is it? What is it? I need the time to figure this out.
Yeah.
Be careful. Looks like he's pinned.
Okay. God, and he turns around and says, "Get it off me! Get the damn thing off me!"
I wasn't prepared for this.
I heave.
I'll lend assistance to Kairos.
Yes,
Okay.
Gunther assists.
Yeah.
Now let me see here. Is this an athletics check, or am I crazy?
Just be a strength check.
Strength check. It looks like it. Yeah.
Draw strength check. Okay. All right. So who is getting? And then so someone's going to be the primary roller, and then everyone can also assist with this, and which means you're rolling against a DC 10. If you succeed, you give them a +2, right? Okay.
Right.
So who wants to be the primary on this?
I got there first, so
Kairos said he was going first.
Okay. So then anyone who's helping, go ahead and make a strength check. DC's 10.
I'm going to do.
My back.
Oh yeah, it's wasn't stretched out.
it's heavier than I thought. I should have stretched.
All right. So the three of you guys are struggling against this, and I think that the ground underneath is just giving way. So you're shifting it more, and he's like, "Ah, you're grinding it. What are you doing? Lift, don't push, lift."
I step back and I cast grease on him, and then I try to lift up the thing again just to
Love
slide
it.
out.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna get messy.
Okay. So Kairos, what does it look like when you cast a spell?
Basically, I start humming and doing in-tone chant, and then a quick rap on my drum to kind of like get to shape the magic the way I want it, and then basically not force of will, but I see it happening, and then it responds like it's like I'm pulling like the carbon or whatever out of the soil, and it
Sure. Yeah. There's probably some of that. If you want to use the ambient surroundings, there's like spilled oil or something like that. That sort of like coats him.
I
He's
call it.
finding himself difficult to try and he can't get purchase on the ground right now. He said, "What have you done, boy?"
Well, it should give him an escape artist bonus to wiggle out on his own.
Okay, cool.
Lift.
So the three who are lifting, you can go ahead and make another check. Vortimer or
Let's Algar take the lead on this one because I cast a spell, and I'll give a aid.
Okay.
I'm using Diviner's Fortune on whoever the primary skill user is, so they get a bonus equal to half my level.
Okay. What does it look like when Prophet casts her magic?
It's not actually magic. It's a supernatural ability
Cool.
from
Okay.
being a diviner wizard. I just touch them and it grants them insight into what they're doing, allowing them to get a bonus equal to half my level.
I think it would still have there would still be some visible manifestation of that. So what do you think that would look like?
Maybe a flash in the person's eyes from the divination magics and them seeing how they could better do the action.
Okay.
Apparently the fates don't want us to do this.
Can we take a moment to shame the virtual dice roller, because that was a brutal series. No one
really.
Good thing I cast green.
It's begun.
Yeah, really. Like, welcome to Roll20, guys.
Somebody pull him.
All right. So he did. In spite of the abysmal rolls, the bonus that he got from his escape artist gives him sufficient. So even though you move it just a scooch, he's able to pull himself out. Unfortunately, his legs are completely shattered. But completely mangled. So what?
Don't think a heal spell will help that.
No.
What's his health points looking like?
I look at Vortimer. I'm like, heal check, bandage it up, do your survival stuff. Split.
I haven't got to that chapter yet in Pathfinder Chronicles.
So what you guys know, basically, so the injuries that he has sustained here are not something that's going to be mendable with just a simple cure spell or something like that. This is someone who's going to require some significant medical attention, which will likely be with Joram Kite, who is the local priest of Bry. And while Ragnar and him don't necessarily travel in the same social circles all the time, he says, "Get me the kite! Get me the kite!"
Okay, I reach down and try and pick him up. I'm like, somebody, I narrow my eyes and say, "We don't stack things like this. Look for sabotage." And I start limping towards the medic center.
Okay.
Ooh, can I? So I don't think Vortimer has done much of anything because nobody, until asking about first aid, specifically told him to do something. But now that he has heard something specific to do, he's ready to look around and maybe make a perception check and see if there's something off around here.
What's his perception bonus?
His perception bonus is 8.
It's 8. Okay.
My character's slightly paranoid, just so people know.
Yeah, that's okay.
From losing his eye.
Okay. So yeah, you're looking around. Let's see here. So I double check one thing. Anybody got training in knowledge nature?
Not yet, but I have a pretty good bonus untrained.
Nope.
Okay.
I can make him untrained, but I'm carrying Ragnar at the moment.
Sure. Prophet, why don't you give me an untrained nature check, please?
No, y'all gonna die.
Okay. Anybody?
Nature, that's the green thing, right?
Yeah. So you're picking him up. I mean, he's a big dude, so you might want someone else to help, or like there's probably like the equivalent of like a wheelbarrow or something like that if you wanted to place him in that and not use a. What's that? The bison. Yeah. You got Shaggy.
Yeah, Shaggy. I don't know how fast he is, but I haven't looked at the statistics up yet. But yeah, we could throw about it. Well, it's a pack saddle, so he's not going to be comfortable. But
no, it's fine.
I don't think he's already
his legs are broken anyway, so like
he's not going to care.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so Vortimer, what you describe for me kind of how you're inspecting this. Again, there's sort of like a high piled, but sturdy level of scrap that's next to you, and this thing seems to have somehow fallen down on him.
I think Vortimer isn't going to get close to it. He's standing in place and just scanning back and forth, looking at it. Maybe if he sees something off, we can tell that he kind of focuses in on one area if he's seen anything odd.
I think if you get in closer to this actual, like you're looking at it and where this thing seems to have come down from, it looks like if you got up there might be something. It might be clearer. You might have a better vantage to see what the hell's going on. It does look weird though. Like it looks like the stacking, as much as this place is filthy and it's all sorts of different things, there is a level of order to this. And it looks like, in the same way that if you took if you had a display in a store, say, that had like a triangular shape, and then you took one thing out of it, that's the noticeable absence of that. It looks like it wouldn't have just fallen.
Okay. I think after finishing the one task, Vortimer is ready to do another. Can I acrobatics my way up there?
What, you're trained in it?
I am trained in acrobatics.
Yeah, taking your time, you can easily just scamper up there. While he's doing this, I know Algar and Kairos are taking Ragnar to the church, because the Church of Bry, or the Temple of Bry, is, I believe, right here.
Oh, we got to hustle.
Yeah, it's a little ways to go. What about Gunther and Prophet? What are they doing?
Prophet is getting looped along on this this little adventure of the day, just persistently being like, I shouldn't have got out of bed this morning. Like, everything has been bad.
Yeah. Okay. How about Gunther? Is Gunther helping bring Ragnar away, or is he hanging out in the scrapyard? Oh, did we lose?
Yeah,
Amy?
he had he logged off and got to get back in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I'll just keep an eye for if someone could keep an eye on the hangout. We'll when he gets back on, we'll ask him. Okay, so then Vortimer, once you get to the top there, you're looking, and would you kindly give me? You're not trained in it, but give me an engineering check, please. Okay, so what you can see is, and it's only because you're a wilderness, survival guy. Oh, Jamie, you're back. Oh, he's having, what's he saying?
Back.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so sorry, Jamie. What is Gunther doing? We've got some people who are, I'm not sure when you dropped out. We've got some people bringing Ragnar off to the Church of Bry to find out what is, what's going on, or to see if we can get treatment. And then we've got Prophet. Who is Prophet going along to the temple, or is she staying in the scrapyard?
Prophet needs strong people to carry this bit back for the water filtration, because she, as a 19-inch person, knows that if we have no water, it doesn't matter if we save Ragnar, but she still needs these stronger people to help her carry this piece back. So she is going with them to the temple for the moment, just so that she can keep tabs on them and be like, hey, we need to go get that.
Okay. So Vortimer, what is Gunther doing? You might be muted, Jamie.
Oh, he's out of the hangout again.
Oh, he's out of the hangout again. Okay. So I don't think he heard any of that.
Let's assume he's there with Vortimer.
Yeah, let's say he's going to stick. He's going to go along with everybody. So you guys, Vortimer, you get up there, and what I was going to say is that that spending so much time in the wild and tracking for these kind of like Numerian objects and whatnot, to kind of look for straight lines, because straight lines are not found in nature. And what you see here is it looks like there are, for the area where this thing or this piece of scrap was being stored, it looks like some kind of apparatus that's straight lines that are moving along, like on one side and on the other, that run perpendicular to the edge. So as if it was like two straight lines that run right to the edge, and you look down and you can see that's where that thing has fallen. It's very crude. It is not, it doesn't look like it was designed to be there. It's something that seems to have been added after the fact. We'll cut to everyone arriving with Shaggy and Ragnar, and the what do you call it? Ragnar is sort of complaining, vocally the entire way along here. And as you guys approach the Temple of Bry, I'll just tell you a couple things you see there. First, where is it here? So Temple of Bri, there are bronze wind chimes and clockwork statues that decorate the domed portico of this compound dedicated to the goddess of invention. This place has a bunch of kind of like, if you think of like a clock shop or like an antique shop, but full of bizarre clockwork, like steampunk kind of accoutrements, that's what I picture this place being like. And in there is, that to expect that there is a guy named Joram Kite who is in there. And Joram is at right
He
at
looks
the
like
top.
my kind of guy.
Yeah, and Joram in the I'm gonna make sure I got this actor's name right because
Can't wait to meet the Morgan Freeman of this game.
I can do my shitty Morgan Freeman impression. So in the film version of this, Joram is actually played by Ian Holm. It's the guy who played like the evil android in Aliens and Bilbo and whatever.
I hate that guy.
He's a great Bilbo.
So
Good characters, and he's the guy.
let's see here. So Ian is or Joram is there. Oh, let me go back here. Okay, and as you walk up, what you see is there's actually a fairly big, maybe about like 5 people who are waiting outside of the temple and are sort of milling around near the entrance. You go in and you guys can see because you're waiting. I think Shaggy's waiting outside with Algar and with Ragnar draped in the back. Kyra, sounds like you were the one who was the most intent on getting this help. When you walk in, you see him look up, and Joram is talking to an android who seems to be missing an arm, and all the rest of these androids have got horrific injuries. And the only reason you can tell they're androids is because of the like unnatural liquids that have come out. They're not bleeding like humans do, and they all sort of look up at you, and you're like, "What the hell happened here?" And Joram looks around, and he says, "Kairos, what? I'm very busy right now."
Ragnar has met with an unfortunate accident. Big slab of metal has crushed his legs. I'm not sure of the extent of the damage, but I don't think these guys are dying. He might be.
So he probably has some kind of acolyte that's working with him as well, some younger human. And he says, "Just attend." And he says something to him, and he comes walking out. He's wiping his cloth off, and he sees him draped across the bison. And as soon as he sees it, he kind of looks at you, Algar, and gestures like, and then is just too exasperated to say anything. He says, "Get him down from there. You can't hang his legs like that."
I pick him up, and probably in a way that is definitely not like medically certified. Like
no, and Ragnar's boy,
yeah,
place him down.
And place him down right on the ground.
Okay. So he says, "All right, let's see." And he heads over and kind of does an inspection of him and whatever. And he says, "All right." He says, and you hear Ragnar says, "I can't lose him. I can't lose him." And Joram shakes his head. He's like, "You're not going to lose your legs, fool. What have you done? You'll just be having a matching pair of limps now, I imagine." All right, just
fix his limp problem.
Move him inside. And you guys move Ragnar inside, and there's beds set up in there. One of the androids gets up, who seems to be still mobile, injured but mobile, and moves away. And he turns back. This is an unusual circumstance for Torch. There's not a huge population of androids here, but clear, visible signs of violence are really unusual.
In the whole thing going on, I turned to one of the less wounded ones and asked what happened.
And he looks up and he says, we were traveling to Castle Urion. I'm trying to do my best, like, unaffected tone for this. We were traveling to Castle Urion. Trade. Potions for the Crusades. And hunters from Yedenve found us.
Looks like they did a good job.
He looks at you. they're emotionless and whatnot, so they're really not reacting. But he just says with flat, kind of like a flat effect. He says there were 26 of us, and there's like maybe 5 now. That sobers me up. I tell them I'm sorry you were treated in such a manner. I'm sure you did nothing to deserve it. Joram kind of gets up and says, "There's enough time for that now. Recriminations and this is not helping." And he sort of gestures at Algar. "Take that beast out of here. The thing's rife with."
Hidden Bay has its own laws. They're different from ours. Trouble is when the two cross. Best be careful of them.
Yes.
Cross my fist on their face.
So we'll cut back to Vortimer. You guys are sort of dealing with Joram, and there's that scene with the things, and we'll find out what happens to Ragnar. But we'll cut back to Vortimer at the top of that scrap heap. And Vortimer, you've kind of just noticed this thing. You look down, and you're not thick. Like, you're able to sort of figure out that there's actually, you sort of move this stuff, or like you touch the sort of railings or whatever else, and they actually move up. Like, if you didn't know better, you'd think that this thing like launched that thing down onto him. And you don't need to make a perception check for this, but you hear from somewhere in the scrap the sound of reptilian laughter. And we will roll for initiative in 2 weeks' time.
Oh, great.
Saw that one coming.
So let's see here, guys. I'm going to get out of roll 20, and then we will do the outro. So here we go. Exit game. Stop sharing screens. Put the camera back on. Stop forcing on me. There we go. Boom. All right. So first session 0 and session 0.5, I guess, is off to the races. So for those listening at home, thanks so much for joining us for session 0 and session part 1 of our ongoing Iron Gods campaign. We'll be playing this every 2 weeks at the same time. And you can, of course, find it on the YouTube channel as well if you want to watch it at a later time. As always, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns regarding the session, please don't hesitate to leave a comment in the comment section below. You can reach me on Twitter at Dungeon Musings, all one word, or you can shoot me an email. My email address is dungeonmusings@gmail.com. In addition, you may notice that there is a link in the description of this video. That is to the charity fundraising campaign that we're running on the channel. We're calling it Heroes Save Villages, and this is a thing where we've paired up with the SOS Children's Villages International campaign. This is a really terrific organization that provides both advocacy and direct benefits for children living in very, very difficult circumstances. If you click through, you can learn all about SOS Children's Villages International, as well as some of the different rewards we've got for donors. Any money that's donated goes directly to assist SOS Children's Villages in the very good work that they do. None of it's eaten up by bureaucracy. None of it's eaten up by the channel. So if you enjoyed the session, if you enjoyed the content on the channel, I just ask that you consider clicking through and learning a little more about that and some of the neat rewards that we have, including adding an NPC to this campaign to make life difficult or more easy for our stalwart players. And speaking of our stalwart players, guys, thanks so much for joining me for this campaign. So Arlen, Brandon, John, Isaac, and Jamie, thank you so much for playing today, guys. This was a lot of fun.
I enjoyed it.
Thank you. That was a great intro.
Yeah,
I had a great time.
Excellent. So as always, we will be back again in 2 weeks' time. Until then, thank you so much for watching, and happy gaming.